Happy Tuesday, folks. Welcome back to #AskGSM here. Today, episode 606, and not just any ordinary episode. Today's episode just so happens to fall on the exact 12-year anniversary of the show. Also, Alexis and I's anniversary as well, which is just completely coincidental. We did not start dating because of this show, but it was actually 12 years ago today that we started this very show and had our first ever episode of #AskGSM. So, of course, first and foremost, as people start piling in here or watching after the fact, thank you for 12 years of one of the best things to happen to this channel, #AskGSM. Without your questions, your support, your watching, whether you're a longtime watcher or a person who sends in questions or a chatter now that we've been doing so far in 2025, I thank you. I appreciate you. It means a lot. So yeah, it's Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. We have, a decent amount of questions to get into. Not nearly as much as we normally do, but might be a shorter show on the whole here today, which I honestly can't complain about. But thank you to those watching live. I'll address you in just a mere moment. To have a few housekeeping things to get to before we get going with the questions. Like I said, thank you for not only 12 years of the show, but for watching live if you're doing so, or after the fact. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. It means a lot. Shout out to our channel members, the aforementioned Alexis, Miss Mod Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1. Find him on the IG at Swerve1, WON. Daniel Malcolm, who I saw there in the chat just a mere moment ago, letter I, letter M, quarter on X. I'm quarter on X. Mr. Marceau himself, RJ Marceau, at RJ_Marceau on the Twitter machine. John Ritland, find him right here on YouTube. Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his content. He does great work, including movie reviews. I'm sure he already reviewed or is going to review. I'm pretty sure he already did. The new Jurassic World: The Rebirth movie. Alexis and I actually just saw that last night, hence the Luchasaurus t-shirt. And I didn't love it. Thought it was okay. Not terrible. There's been worse installments in the franchise, but certainly not a great movie. Nonetheless, Richie, shout out to him as well. Red Planet Wrestling right here on YouTube. And last but not least, Average Grunt. Follow him on X at the Average Grunt on the Twitter machine. More information on how to become a WrestleRant All Access Pass channel member in the description box down below. You can get shout-outs at the beginning and end of every single live stream that we do here on the channel. You also get badges and emojis and live chats, early and ad-free access to certain videos, and so much more. You're just basically supporting the channel and supporting me, so thank you so much for that. More information on that in the description box down below. And you also, including as part of being a channel member, you get your questions answered first here on the show or topics discussed first on WrestleRant Radio on Thursdays. So Average Grunt, always taking advantage of that, sent me a rapid-fire series of questions just mere minutes actually before we went live, and I'll be getting to those momentarily, so thank you to Grunt for that. You can also just simply support the channel by liking this video and subscribing to the channel by clicking the thumbs up, hitting the bell button to be notified every single time you upload new content, and every single time we go live here on the channel, you'll be notified. So I think that's about it. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so at any time by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video, after we're done being live, of course, and I'll include your question in next week's edition. You can also obviously send in questions in the chat to be answered during the show after we get through these scheduled questions, but I will address the chat first. Let's pull that up here. Shout out to Daniel Malcolm, who I mentioned before. What's going on, Daniel? Great to see you as always, my friend. Alexis, of course, here, our resident moderator, saying hey here in the chat. Yes, she also acknowledged there in the chat that it's our 7-year anniversary. 7-year anniversary for us, our 12-year anniversary of the show. Again, no connection there, but that is the perfect coincidence. Millennial Noob, what's going on, brother? He said, good morning, everyone. Noob, what's going on, my friend? Hope you are doing well. Fernando also joining us, saying buenos dias, WrestleRant. Zach, what's going on? Saying happy Taco Tuesday, everyone. Zach, what's going on, my man? I'm not a big, I like tacos, but you know what? Fun fact about me, I don't think I've ever in my life, and I'm a fast food guy as well, I don't think I've ever in my life, not that anyone asked, have eaten Taco Bell, nor do I have any desire to. Love Mexican food, love tacos, fajitas, stuff like that, but I've never actually had it from Taco Bell. I just feel like that would destroy my stomach, nor do I have any desire anyway. But God bless anyone who does. I'd rather just have a straight-up taco from pretty much anywhere else. Actually, funny that you mentioned that. Alexis and I, as part of our anniversary, might be going out to, will very likely be going out to a Mexican restaurant to eat tonight. I'll have a quesadilla there. We're not going to Taco Bell. I already said hello to Fernando. Grunt, what's going on, my man? Saying hello. Saying happy anniversary to us as well. Thank you, Grunt. We appreciate that. Fernando said, Raw was the best Raw from the Netflix era, in my opinion. Wow. Last night's Raw, you think was the best Raw of the year? Interesting. I did think it was a good show. They were in Providence last night, actually. Was checking tickets last minute to see if they would go down. And even if the tickets did go down to a certain point, in retrospect, I definitely made the right call to not go to the show last night. I've been to so many Raws in my life. Some great Raws, some bad Raws, some forgettable Raws, some memorable Raws. I was at Raw the night after WrestleMania just a few short months ago. Real no need to go last night, although it would have been cool to kind of go on our anniversary. But we already went to a wrestling show on our anniversary 2 years ago. We actually went to SmackDown at MSG the night that they did the whole Tribal Court of Roman Reigns or whatever, that amazing segment. We were there for that at MSG, and Edge's last MSG match as well. That was 2 years ago. We did not go to Raw last night, but we made the right call by seeing Jurassic World Rebirth instead and watching it from the comfort of our couch. So, anyway, that was it was a good show, though. I did enjoy the show for what it was. Fernando saying happy anniversary. Thank you, Fernando. I appreciate that. Daniel saying the same thing. Happy anniversary to some of my favorite folks. Thank you, Daniel. You're among my favorite folks as well. I appreciate that, brother. Hope you're doing well. Yes, Fernando even said Taco Bell is not real Mexican food. I mean, that's 1,000% correct. I would also say it's not just singling out Taco Bell. Like, I would probably argue as well, and you guys might have a different opinion, Olive Garden, for example, is not real Italian food necessarily, but I fucking love Olive Garden. I love the way they make the food. When you're there, your family, of course. I love Olive Garden. But, just because it's not real Italian food, not real Mexican food, that's totally fine. I know a lot of people that love Taco Bell. I know a lot of people that have gone there, get food there. That's, I don't know. I don't even know if it's an acquired taste. I think it's just something for me where I'm not a big fan. I'll get Mexican food pretty much anywhere else, especially actual restaurants that are making better, real Mexican food. But, just because a place doesn't have real Mexican food or doesn't have real Italian food doesn't make it necessarily good for some people. I love Olive Garden, even though that's probably not authentic Italian food. I still fucking love Olive Garden. Maria's saying hello. Graham, Maria, what's going on? Great to see you in the chat as always. Also asking, what special anniversary plans? Like I said, so it's a long story, but basically we celebrate our anniversary on the 7th and the 8th. It's kind of a complicated story. Not really, but won't get into it here. We celebrate, it's like night 1, night 2 of WrestleMania, although this predates WrestleMania being 2 nights, so it's not as if we copied off of that. Yesterday we saw Jurassic World Rebirth because we actually saw the second Jurassic World movie, not second Jurassic Park movie, the second Jurassic World movie on our first date 7 years ago. So it was fitting that we saw the movie in theaters last night on our anniversary. And then tonight, like I said, we're probably going to a Mexican restaurant that we also went to on our first date 7 years ago. Not the same location, but the same restaurant. So that's what we did yesterday, and that's what we're doing today. Fernando also asking, did you and Alexis enjoy Jurassic World Rebirth? Enjoy, it was fine. It wasn't like a, entertaining experience. I mean, it was fine. I like going to the movies. I like watching pretty much anything. I wouldn't say I wasted my money on seeing Jurassic World Rebirth. It was a middle-of-the-road movie, I thought. I think Alexis liked it / enjoyed it more than I did. I think the dinosaur stuff is awesome. I think they do a great job with that, and some of the shots are cool. The dinosaurs are always the highlight of these movies, but nothing has ever really come close to topping or even let alone matching that first one. And I like the first Jurassic World movie that they came out with a decade ago. I like that one. The first of the 3 Jurassic World movies. This one I just couldn't really get into. The human characters didn't really do much for me. And Jurassic World was basically a rerun of the first Jurassic Park movie. That's probably why it was at least somewhat good. This was different. And it wasn't as if they let the dinosaurs run amok in the world, because I guess people are kind of tired of the dinosaurs at this point, don't really give a shit, which is kind of strange. People actually got tired of the dinosaurs. Doesn't really make much sense. Yeah, but the plot didn't really do much for me. Wasn't a terrible movie. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. I think Alexis said she would have given it 3 stars. But, glad we saw it. He also asked, are you watching Superman this weekend? No, not this weekend, but rather probably next Tuesday. Micah always pops up here in the chat a little bit later on. And he always asks every single Tuesday, what are you seeing on this $5 Tuesday? Today, nothing. We were probably going to see Jurassic World Rebirth tonight, but we had a conflict. So we saw it last night instead. It just worked out better timing-wise. Last Tuesday, we saw How to Train Your Dragon, the new one, the new live-action movie, which I thought was great. I thought that was a really well-done movie. Pretty much a replica of the original, which is good. You don't really want to ask for much more than that. But I really liked the live-action movie. We saw Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Rebirth last night. And then I honestly probably would see Superman sometime this weekend. But you can blame the other wrestling companies for that because this weekend alone, not even counting the shit leading up to it, which is, pretty standard stuff as far as the shows that air throughout the week, which I watch and review pretty much all of it. But this weekend alone, we have Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, which is the least of all of them, on Friday, which should still be a good show. That's on Friday night during SmackDown, actually. And I don't even think I can watch either SmackDown or that event live because we'll be at another event that we were invited to on Friday night. So we have that going on Friday. Saturday, All In, of course, during Saturday afternoon. NXT The Great American Bash, which I very likely will not watch until Sunday before Evolution. But also Saturday night, we have Saturday night's main event. And then on Sunday night is Evolution. So it is a wrestling-filled weekend. It is fucking insane. I will have no time to do anything else but consume wrestling, write about wrestling, talk about wrestling. I don't think we'll do a stream at any point this weekend, reviewing these shows or doing a live stream during these shows. That could change. That's not currently the plan. I have so much other work I have to do during the shows that it probably would not be best for me to be live during the shows, but maybe at some point down the road we could do that again. Because we did do a watch-along for that NXT Vengeance Day show back in February, and it was fun. So anyway, that's coming up this weekend. But back to my original point. No time to see Superman. No time to see Superman, so instead we're going to save it for Tuesday, see it with other people. See it Tuesday evening, and I will report back to you some point next week. By the time that we do hashtag AskGSM next Tuesday, I will not have seen the movie yet. The movie will have been out for quite a few days, so I'll have to avoid spoilers. But it's not like it's an Infinity War or Endgame or No Way Home or something like that. It's not quite that serious, so I'm perfectly content waiting to watch this movie. But I'm looking forward to it. I've heard good things from the early reviews based on Superman, so I'm looking forward to that as well. Maria said, I think WWE did set up Evolution to fail. It feels like an afterthought. Yes, it does. We'll get into that. Maria also said the mutated dinosaur looked like the Rancor from Return of the Jedi. Yes, it fucking did. I think I already made that comparison or already thought that, like when I first saw the trailer, because that shot was in all the trailers. Like the first shot of the movie, the flashback scene, is also the very first scene in this movie. That was like the coolest thing from the trailer, the mutated dinosaur. And we were talking, Alexis and I were coming out of the movie about how I thought this was the first movie which I thought had an edge over the other installments. That this movie had the first, like, truly mutated dinosaurs. Like, fucking freakishly weird, different dinosaurs. But she made the point that that was already the case in some of the other movies, maybe even the first Jurassic World movie. I honestly don't remember that at all. I thought they just brought the dinosaurs back to life. I mean, obviously they're all genetically modified because they're fucking dinosaurs in the modern age. But like modified to the point of what we saw in this movie where they're like freakishly different than what a normal dinosaur would be. I thought this was the first movie to do that. She said it was not. So again, I'm not sure. She's probably right on that. I just don't vividly remember those other installments. But like I said, I thought the best part of Rebirth were the cool-looking dinosaurs. Some of the shots they did, it looked really cool. The human actors, it's not really about them, but like I enjoyed and remember more about the human characters from the original franchise, and even Chris Pratt, than I did. And Bryce Dallas Howard sucked. In those Jurassic World movies, she was awful. And I'm not saying she's necessarily a bad actress, but in those movies, she was fucking abysmal. Scarlett Johansson was better, but not by a wide margin. Yeah, just the plot itself wasn't overly interesting. I just don't really know how much you can really do to reinvent the wheel with these movies. There's dinosaurs in the modern age. So they made it different by people now not caring about dinosaurs roaming the earth. That's just weird to me. That's just like the sake of making it different. Like, there's how much more can you really do with the concept before it starts to get old? And it got old after maybe like the third Jurassic Park movie, not even like the fucking Jurassic World movies. It was already a dead concept even by that point. So, and when they brought it back in 2015, I thought it was cool. They tried to, capitalize off the originals and not remake the movie, but it was like a legacy reboot. They brought back some of the original characters and the subsequent sequels, which I enjoy. They tied all the movies together, which I like. That's why I like Dominion more than this movie, because it had better story, I thought, and the dinosaurs still look cool. But how much more can you really do with dinosaurs in the modern age without completely blowing it up and starting from scratch? It's not even a starting from scratch type of movie. They continue the legacy of the other movies, which I guess is better than nothing, but it didn't really make for the most interesting film, I thought. Maria said, wrestling is too stacked this weekend. I mean, I love wrestling, but damn. Sure, yeah, I mean, there is way too much wrestling, absolutely, this weekend. And I think all the shows will be good. I really can't say I'm overly enthused for Great American Bash. I think NXT has good PLEs, but All In is much more of a must-see show. That just kind of goes without saying. Evolution, I think, will have potential, does have potential to be a really good show, a lot like the original installment was. And Saturday Night's Main Event should be a decent show as well. I think All In will easily be the best of the bunch, but the weakest of the bunch, the least consequential, so to speak, I think will be the NXT Great American Bash event. There's just not a whole lot on that show really worth seeking out. Like, I can't even remember really much of the card from memory. I know they're doing Obafemi and Yoshiki Inamura, which should be a good match, but like, does anyone honestly expect Inamura to win the title? No, probably not. They're doing a women's tag team match because the actual NXT women's title match comes on Evolution the next night between JC Jane and Jordan Grace. So they're doing Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe versus Fatal Influence in a tag team match at Evolution or a Great American Bash. Okay, that's basically an NXT TV match, but that's totally fine. I think they're doing Sol Ruka and Tatum Paxley for the NXT North American Championship. Or not, I don't think it's Paxley. I think it's Izzy Dame, actually. Again, that's another NXT TV level matchup. I forgot what else they're doing, but those are like the main matches, and I just can't really say I care. It feels like a glorified NXT TV episode, does the Great American Bash. And very much an afterthought, which is why I probably won't really care to catch up on it until some point on Sunday, if not Monday. Fernando said the family in Rebirth was very annoying. Yeah, the family was just, didn't care about the family. That the idiot, like, boyfriend, he was like a moron, but like he saved his girlfriend, and his dialogue was terrible. Yeah, the family was not great. There really weren't a lot of great characters. I thought Mahershala Ali's character was probably the best one, because he's also a great actor. That's really about it, though. I don't really care much about the other characters in the movie. So, yeah, the boyfriend specifically was just a fucking moron. And then he was also like redeemed because he was but he was also redeemed early on. It's not like he built up to that point. It was kind of all over the place with him. He was awful. Fernando said we all knew who the red shirts were. Are you talking about in Family? I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about in Rebirth and in Jurassic World or another movie? We are getting, Fernando said he didn't finish his other sentence, but he also said, we are headed for dinosaurs with laser beams in the next Jurassic World movie. We're getting to the point where it's going to start to have to really be elevated through, dinosaurs going to outer space. I mean, it's going to fucking enter Fast and Furious territory where you have to go completely above and beyond ridiculous. I mean, the fact that dinosaurs are still even on the Earth at this point is ridiculous enough, but you're going to really have to do something crazy to justify making more movies. Now, it made a lot of fucking money, so they're just going to make more movies. But the fact they even made this one after how critically panned the last 3 Jurassic World movies were, is just mind-boggling to me. Because even those movies were really not that great at all overall. But they made money, so they're going to keep fucking doing it. Like that last Dominion movie, I actually enjoyed that movie for what it was. I liked the movie. And it made a lot of money, but it was, I think, the worst reviewed movie of the entire franchise. Yet they greenlit another movie, which is what led to Rebirth. Okay. Noob said every family in the Jurassic Park movies are annoying. Sure, but I think some of the other human characters, like even in the original Jurassic Park, are more memorable than what we got here. Maybe just because it's the first movie. Like in the other Jurassic World movie, I think the last 2, we had that like fucking alien girl. That shit just got completely ridiculous as well. Like, more ridiculous than it had any right to be. It just got worse and worse. But nonetheless, the movie was fine. We'll move on from the movie talk here that are here for the people that are here for the wrestling questions. And we'll get back to the chat in a little bit. So like I said, if you have a question for me to answer here on the show, you can either send it in the chat if you are watching live, or send it in after the fact. I'll answer it on next week's episode. So we'll get to the first of these scheduled questions here from one Average Grunt, sending these in shortly before we went live. He said, I got some rapid-fire questions for you regarding the International and Continental Unification match, seeing as both titles will cease to exist this Saturday. He said, and here are his questions. What are your overall feelings of both championships and how they were used? Do you have any early expectations for the Unified Championship? Do you see the TNT title being elevated after the titles are unified and we have one less men's singles championship? And also, what are your top 3 international and continental title matches? Some really good questions here. So he's talking about the AEW Continental Championship and the AEW International Championship being unified this Saturday, and the Omega Okada match, which I think should be a great match. To my understanding, this new unified championship that they're creating will, I guess, start its own lineage and will not carry the lineage of either the Continental or the International Championship. What I would do personally is carry on the lineage of at least the winner of whoever wins. And I think Omega should win. So I think Omega should win, and they carry on the lineage of the Continental Championship, or rather the International Championship, because it's been around longer, dating back to 2022. The Continental title, I just don't really give a fuck about at all, to be perfectly honest. So I would get rid of that one, which was kind of pointless to begin with. The whole point of the Continental Tournament that AEW does should be to earn a future opportunity at the AEW World Championship, and not necessarily just win this championship that you can defend and win at any other time throughout the year. That's the part of this I don't really understand. So I would keep the tournament, but get rid of the title. The tournament should be like their version of King of the Ring, where it's all about the wrestling, which is great, but it earns you the opportunity to challenge for a championship if you're choosing, very likely, the World Championships. It's like the Owen Hart Cups, but it's the Owen Hart Cups of the fall. Like, you have the Owen Hart Cups in the summer, and then the Continental Championship. It's a tournament. It's not really a tournament, though. It's like a round-robin G1. It's like their version of the G1, the G1 Climax from New Japan. And then you can also earn a future opportunity by winning that. It's like the Royal Rumble. Like, you can win World Championship opportunities by winning King of the Ring, but you can also win a championship opportunity by winning the Rumble. Just they're two very different match concepts. The Continental Classic should be AEW's Royal Rumble, in my opinion. But anyway, I know that wasn't your question. As far as what my overall feelings are of both championships and how they were used, I guess that what I just said kind of ties into that, actually. So I guess what I said wasn't completely irrelevant. In that the Continental Championship should have never actually existed. It was just one too many titles. I really have not cared for the usage of that title at all. The tournaments themselves have been great. We've only gotten 2 so far, but the 2 tournaments were awesome. I really can't speak to how the title was used throughout the rest of the year, because it really was kind of an afterthought. Okada's been champion now for well over a year, dating back to, I think, March or April of 2024. So he's been champion for a very long time. But how many of those title defenses were overly memorable is my question. The answer is not many. And I'll get to my favorite Continental title matches in a little bit, which is what you asked. But I really could not have cared less for the actual Continental Championship. The tournament, yes. The title, no. The International title, it kind of felt like an irrelevant championship when they instituted it back in 2022. It kind of felt like their version of a championship that could be used over in Japan, like an AEW sanctioned title, but they can give it to a New Japan guy to hold the New Japan, because it's called originally it was called the All Atlantic Championship. And they had the first champion crowned on the inaugural Forbidden Door show. And initially, when Pac won the title, and he was champion for a little while, he was a great first champion, he was having title defenses over in the UK and in other countries and other promotions. Now, they really have not done any of that in a very long time, but that kind of felt, to me, like the Forbidden Door title. Like, you can give it to someone in Japan. It's an AEW sanctioned title, but you can give it to people on the indies of companies that they work with in Japan and maybe CMLL and companies like that, where it can give AEW and vice versa, the other promotions, more exposure. It, leads to more, co-branded matches and forbidden door matches between people in multiple promotions and stuff like that. That never really happened. It was the case for maybe the first 6 months. But then beyond that, they just kind of stopped doing it. But anyway, after that, honestly, it kind of became the workhorse championship of the company. When they started to not devalue, but take the spotlight off of, de-emphasize might be the right word, the TNT championship, because that was the mid-card workhorse title of the company for a long time. When they started to kind of de-emphasize the TNT title and emphasize the international championship, which is what they renamed it to later on in 2022, maybe even early 2023, that was when that championship became one of probably the best booked title in the entire company. Pac was a great first champion. Orange Cassidy, say what you will about the guy, he was an amazing champion. He was champion for just about a year and had a lot of amazing matches that I'll go back to in a little bit. But the string of matches he was having from when he won the belt in late 2022 to the late 2023 period when he lost it, that was the peak of the Continental Championship. Or I'm sorry, the International Championship. I'm getting the two confused because they're very similar. The Intercontinental title, whatever. No, the International title was great when it was around the waist of Orange Cassidy. And then they did a lot of, hot potato title changes with it going to Ray Phoenix and Jon Moxley and then back to Moxley and then back to Cassidy, I think he won it again. And then he lost it to Roderick Strong, who then lost it pretty quickly to Will Ospreay. And then that was kind of like a resurgence of the championship when it was back around the waist of Ospreay and MJF. And they were kind of feuding over the title and trading it back and forth last summer. And that led to some great matches, including at All In between the two over that championship. And also on Dynamite. One of the best Dynamite matches they've ever done between MJF and Will Ospreay was almost an hour-long draw before MJF beat him in the last couple of moments of the match. A fantastic match. And then Ospreay got it back, lost it to Takeshita, and Takeshita lost it to Omega earlier this year. So I think the booking of the International Championship was and has been way better than the booking of the Continental title. So those are my thoughts on both belts. Do I have any early expectations for the Unified Championship itself? I don't, aside from, it kind of ties into your next question. You said, do I see the TNT title being elevated after the titles are unified and we have one less men's singles championship? I honestly don't. I really don't see the fortune of the TNT title changing. I think it's going to stay at the exact same level. I don't think the booking of that title will really change just because we have one less title. Theoretically, you would think so. But at the same time, I really don't envision that being the case just because the TNT title has been such an afterthought for so long. I do think the TNT title's perception could improve, but not because one of the other titles is gone. I think the perception of that title could improve once Kyle Fletcher wins it. And I think he absolutely needs to and should come all in by beating Adam Cole. Adam Cole has done fuck all as champion. I love Adam Cole. He's had, maybe 2 or 3 title defenses? I remember the Josh Alexander one from a week or two ago. Who else has he faced on TV? I couldn't even tell you. I do not remember any other title defenses he's had since he won the belt. I think in April. Daniel Garcia, same thing. Don't really remember many of the matches he was having as champion. I remember the series of matches with Adam Cole. I enjoyed those. I remember when he won the belt from Jack Perry. I like that he won the belt from Jack Perry. He also did fuck all as champion. It's basically become the top title on Collision. It's kind of like their world championship. But that doesn't really make it any more meaningful, in my opinion. It feels like the Intercontinental Championship of a decade ago, where it was at a certain level and it took a very long time to be back to being elevated. But I don't think the merging of the Continental and the International titles will really have much to do with that. I think the booking of the team title will only improve with who's holding it and what they do with said person. And I think they see Kyle Fletcher as enough of a, credible competitor that he could be the one to take that title and actually do something with it as champion. Hopefully. Maybe he wins it and does nothing and he just holds it around as a prop. The same way he kind of did with the Ring of Honor World Television Championship about a year ago, but it's better than nothing, I would say. So yeah, those are my early expectations for the Unified Championship. And the fact that I think the Unified title will also be slotted at a certain level. That was the report a couple of months ago, I think from Fightful, was that they were eyeing the Unified Championship as like their next, not world championship, but it would be like a notch below the world title. And hopefully it's booked as such, because the Continental Championship has been a complete afterthought for a while. The Intercontinental title, the International title. See how fucking confusing this is? The international title before recently also wasn't really much of a priority. And even around the waist of Omega, who I think is great, Omega had this amazing banger of a triple threat at, I think, Dynasty with Speedball and Ricochet. He's had maybe one title defense on TV since then, that four-way, like a month ago at the Summer Blockbuster show. Again, hasn't really defended it. So it really hasn't. And he won it in like fucking March, I think. And he really hasn't defended it at all. So it's not like it's a real priority right now either. Anyway, last question of yours before we go back to the chat in a moment, because this is a loaded question from Grunt. What are my top 3 international and continental title matches? I don't know if it's necessarily a continental title match. I mean, it technically is, because the winner of the tournament would win the title. That being the finals of the most recent tournament. Okada against Ospreay at World's End was probably the best Okada match that Okada has had in AEW. That was an awesome match. His match with Pac, I remember last year being fantastic. I think that was a Dynasty 2024. That was an awesome match. His recent title defenses with Buddy Matthews, Brody King, Okada's matches were good. Speedball, same thing. I think they were all very good matches, but they were all very predictable to me. I enjoyed the Ospreay match more. I enjoyed the Pac match more. And then maybe the first Continental title match. I think I was there for that, actually. The finals of the first Continental title tournament at World's End 2023 when Eddie Kingston beat Bryan Danielson. And they had a rematch, I think, a couple of months later at Dynasty 2024 or Revolution or whatever, which was also a great match. So either one of those, probably the finals of the first one because I was there for that. So those are my top 3 Continental title matches. Honestly, the international title matches, there's just so many to name and a lot I'm probably forgetting. The aforementioned triple threat would have to be in that conversation. And people were calling this the best triple threat of all time, the Takeshita Ricochet Ospreay match, which was a great match, but that wouldn't even crack my top 3 of best international title matches. It was a great match. But the triple threat that we got a couple of months ago at Dynasty with Omega, Speedball, and Ricochet was much better. That was an excellent match. So that would be one. I would include, honestly, you could include both, but for the sake of variety, we'll only include one. Either of the Ospreay MJF matches from either All In or the one on TV. I enjoyed the one on TV, I think, a little bit more because it was very impressive how they went almost for a full hour, and then MJF won with like mere moments to go. I love that finish. I thought that was great. So MJF and Ospreay from Dynamite last year, I think it was like late June, early July, I want to say early July, before the All-In match in late August. So those two, and then probably Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy. That would have been the main event of All Out 2023. That was the culmination of Cassidy's year-long run as champion, and Moxley beat him for that belt. No one could beat Cassidy. He won at every turn. He had an amazing match with Will Ospreay, I think at Forbidden Door 2022. But I don't think that was for the international title. I think that was the same show they crowned the inaugural champion, and that was Pac who won it. And I think their match was not for the international championship, although you would think so. I think Cassidy defended it in a 4-way at Forbidden Door the following year, and that was a good match. But yeah, I would probably go with Moxley, Orange Cassidy, All Out 2023. Either of the MJF Ospreay matches from last summer, and then the triple threat from Dynasty this year with Omega, Speedball, and Ricochet. There's probably more matches that I'm not thinking. There's way more matches. Orange Cassidy had a lot of great matches as international champion, but those are the ones that come to mind. So a great question there from Grunt. Thank you for sending that in. Let's pull the chat back up here and see what I've been missing in the midst of all the AEW talk. Fernando said my red shirts comment was the characters who are going to get eaten. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, they made it very obvious throughout Jurassic World Rebirth who was going to die and who was going to get eaten and who would probably survive. I will not say who, obviously, for those that haven't seen it. But it did feel fairly obvious. You got to have some people die in these movies. You can't just go through an entire Jurassic Park / World movie without some people getting eaten. Daniel said, still need you to read that Punk rap. I'm sure you'll do a much better job than Philip did. Haha. So maybe we could save that for the end of the chat. I know Daniel texted me about this on the day that it happened, and I forgot to do it last week. Would you guys be interested in me reading the rap? I know Alexis hasn't seen it, so this would be news to her. Would you guys be interested in hearing me read the rap of the rap, quote-unquote, that CM Punk rapped to John Cena a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. In my own words, I feel like that would be even worse than Phil's. I know you're saying it might be better than Phil's, but, maybe we could save that for the end of the chat. We've done a lot of Wrestle WAP sing-alongs here on the show before, so we can maybe save that for the end. Just remind me. Maria says yes. Maria's interested. I know Daniel's interested, so maybe we could save that for the end of the stream. Maria also said, poor Adam Cole, he's had such a downfall. He's not the top priority that he once was or should be. Let's put it that way. I think Adam Cole's still doing, and Fernando says yes as well. Adam Cole's still doing good work. He's still over. Not quite as over as he once was, obviously. But he's not as important as he should be, or at least once was. Fernando adding on to that, Adam Cole was booked poorly as TNT champ. He was doing commentary and Collision for weeks instead of defending his title. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And Fernando said MC Graham. Yeah, Fernando, as far as his reign as champion, you're right. Instead of defending the championship, he has been on Collision doing fucking commentary. Like, he would come out in his street clothes, and I'm just thinking, like, what are we doing here? Like, this is just so fucking stupid to me. It's just so dumb. I don't know, man. Eric, what's going on, brother? Saying hi, how is everyone? I'm doing well, Eric. Thanks for asking. He also said, are you doing a preview for All In? Yes, we are going to be doing All In predictions, a lot of predictions, for all the shows probably, on WrestleRant Radio this Thursday. It's a big prediction panel episode of WrestleRant Radio, predicting probably fucking 4 shows. Great American Bash quickly, All In for sure, Evolution, and Saturday Night's Main Event. I might even skip the NXT one, we'll see. But the other ones we will be discussing. Mr. Marceau hardly follows AEW at all beyond what he sees on social media. And I always like getting his 2 cents in predictions for stuff, because I got his predictions for Double or Nothing, I think. And I think he did better in his predictions than I did. And I watch the show every week. So I will ask him his predictions. But more importantly, all kidding aside, you'll get my picks as well for every match coming up on the show on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Richie, what's going on, brother? Richie is here saying, howdy, chat. What's up, Graham? I'm doing well, Richie. Great to see you here in the chat. I missed you this weekend. Car trouble. I still actually do not have my car back. I brought my car. You guys will find this funny. I brought my car in last week to get a wiper, what the mechanic called a possessed wiper. I mean, that's basically what it was. My back wiper would not fucking stop going off. And it's been an issue since I got the car a few years ago. But it wasn't like a major issue at all. It just got worse over time and more annoying, to the point now where it's almost unbearable, especially for other people that are in the car. So like I went to go get it looked at a couple days ago, about a week ago. I think it was last Wednesday I dropped it off. And I just really wanted that fixed and some other stuff looked at just to see what it would be. And they've held on to it since then, which they did tell me at the time. They didn't say it would be a day. He was like, all right, if we want to fully investigate this thing, we're going to be holding on to it until like Monday. I said, okay. So that was last Wednesday. And then I called back yesterday, and they were very cool. They were very nice about the whole thing. But they found a whole like litany of other issues. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, we'll see what has to be addressed and what has to be fixed right now. I really just wanted the wiper fixed. The back wiper. It's not even the front wiper. It's the fucking back wiper. It just goes off randomly. It's so annoying. I really just want that fixed, and the other shit I'll address or fix either now or at another time. But we'll get a better idea of what that process will look like, in the next day or two. So say a fucking prayer for me that I'm not going to have to pay. I probably will have to pay an arm and a leg to get this shit fixed, or what I have to get fixed. But again, the whole idea was that the only reason I brought it in the first place was to fix a wiper, which really should not cost much at all. But they found other issues, which they always do. And I've still been out with it. I've been without a car ever since. So hopefully it gets addressed. And we've been working around it. It's just annoying. But, like I said, the shop was actually pretty nice about it. And the guy's been a pleasure to work with. So hopefully we get some good news. Let's cross our fingers and say a prayer that we get some good news today or tomorrow. I got a missed call like 2 minutes ago, but I don't think it was from them. Maybe I can pick up the phone call while we're here on the chat. And we can get the news together. You know what I mean? We can all speak to the mechanic, and you can get my reaction in real time to how much I'm going to have to pay for this garbage. Maria said, didn't Rey Fenix win the title by accident? Yes, he did. He won the title because I think Moxley got accidentally concussed, and Fenix or vice versa. Something happened to that effect where Ray Phoenix won the belt because I think Moxley, I think it was a concussion. I think he got concussed during the match. And Ray Phoenix won the belt, and they very quickly took it off of him and gave it to, not Moxley, I think it was Orange Cassidy. I think Moxley lost the belt to Phoenix. Phoenix lost it to Cassidy. And then Cassidy retained it against Moxley. I think that's how that whole thing went last year. Daniel also wants to hear me do the basic Thugonomics rap that Punk gave to Cena, but he said he's clearly biased. Well, that's okay. We will probably get to it at the end of the stream. Maria said RJ is loyal to WWE. He is. I mean, to be fair, it's not as if he's never watched AEW. He falls in that camp of people who watched AEW for many years. And it's not even as if, again, he's never watched the show. He's, only watched the first year or two. I was talking to an old friend of mine a few weeks ago that said, I watched up until maybe 2020, 2021. I'm like, okay, it's not really enough of a sample size because the company's been around since 2019. That's like 4 years of programming that you've missed. Some people fell out of it during the whole Punk thing. I think RJ probably watched the show, I want to say, through like mid-2023. I'm not even sure if he would remember, but we haven't really... the thing is, we really haven't talked AEW ourselves aside from predictions. Like, I could talk AEW all day. But even then, there's not really a whole lot to report usually, unless there is a big thing going on. The shows are solid. They're not as white-hot as they once were. And WWE is kind of the primary talking point for better or for worse a lot of the time, which is why you see me speak a lot more about WWE. People want to hear more about WWE because that's the fucking main company. And with AEW, the shows are good. Sometimes they're great, and when they are, I'll talk about it. If they're bad, I'll talk about it. But when the company's just kind of there existing, there's really not much to discuss. There's not much of an audience for that sort of thing. You know what I mean? TNA Impact, same thing. I watch every episode of Impact, and I have for the last 17 years, but I never review the show, really, or discuss TNA much because there's not much of an audience that wants to hear me talk about it on the regular, and there's other stuff that's more important than that. But as far as Mr. Marceau goes, Grunt called him RJ Levesque, which is funny. Yes, he is much more of an avid WWE watch. And even then, honestly, like, it's not as if he's sitting in front of his television, to my knowledge, watching the shows live every single week. Like, he'll catch up after the fact. He'll miss some shows, miss some SmackDowns and shit. You realize as you get older, you have a lot... Like, honestly, if I wasn't covering this stuff... I mean, I would watch this stuff anyway because I'm a fucking mark. Like, I'm a diehard mark. But as you get older, you just have less and less time for this sort of stuff, to be honest with you. And if you have to stick with one company, WWE sometimes can be better. AEW can be better, too. They both... I love both companies, equally or at least close to it. And I like to follow what's going on, even if I didn't have to do it for a job, you know what I mean? Anyway, Grunt said, note that Okada-Pac match was not for the Continental title. Great match, though. Definitely his second best match in AEW after his match with Ospreay. Oh, interesting. Huh. Okay, so I guess I would have to take that off the list. That wasn't for the Continental Championship? Are you sure? I'm going to look that up. I'm calling you out on that, Grunt. Let's see. Dynasty 2024. Let's see. I feel like you won the championship and then defended it against Pac. Where is it? No, it is. Yeah, that's what I thought. The Kazuchika Okada Pac match, Grunt, if you look it up on Wikipedia, AEW Dynasty 2024 was for the AEW Continental Championship, which I thought it was because I'm pretty sure he won the belt from Eddie Kingston on Dynamite. And then his first championship defense was against Pac at Dynasty, which was one of his better matches in AEW. Let's see. Yeah, Daniel says this always happens as far as the car stuff. I know. Fernando said Okada versus Omega is going to steal the show at All In. I don't know. Honestly, it's tough to say. I think the main event, if booked properly, could be an amazing match. I think Storm and Monet could be a great match. That Okada and Omega, it's not what it was, 7-8 years ago, but I still think the chemistry will be great regardless. Exactly, Daniel. He says, you think you're just going in for some shit and then your car is dealing with all types of shit. They also give you, like, there is always something wrong with your car probably, but it's not something that really is that big of a deal. I had something happen last year where I brought it in for, like, a recall situation, and they sent me a note, like, freaking out about, like, oh, you got to get this addressed, like, immediately. I'm like, I'm not. And I've had the car for over a year now with no issue. I'm like, not saying it's not an issue. I'm just saying, like, you just want me to pay for it right now and pay all this fucking money for something that I really do not have to address at the moment. Just ridiculous. But anyway, Richie said, what's up, Fernando? Also, happy anniversary, Alexis and Graham. Thank you, Richie. We appreciate that. Richie also said, so is Goldberg winning this Saturday and Rhea on Sunday? Rhea is definitely winning on Sunday. Goldberg, I'm not convinced by. And this is why, I mean, Grunt has said the same thing, jokingly, but maybe even half serious. Maybe we should do a stream for Saturday night's main event in case Goldberg does fucking win. I mean, you'll hear me rant about it regardless if Goldberg were to beat Gunther on, even if fucking Rollins cashed in. Like, I've seen a concerning amount of people say I would be fine with Goldberg winning the belt if Rollins immediately cashes in. That is fucking dumb. I'm sorry. That is just stupid. Because the bottom line is still that Gunther loses to a 58-year-old man. A broken down Goldberg. Absolutely not. That is just stupid. That's dumb. So maybe we should do a stream. I probably won't, but maybe we should do a stream to get my live reaction to Goldberg potentially, or not. I mean, you get my reaction, like me sitting on the edge of my seat regardless, when he challenges for the World Heavyweight Championship. Let's see. Grunt said corrected in 4K. One of the many reasons I have no interest in driving. And he said, yes, do agree. As far as the live stream is concerned, I mean, Grunt, you would be the first to get my reaction. At the very least, if Goldberg wins the championship, I don't care if Rollins cashes in. I don't care what the fuck happens. Goldberg, under no circumstance, should win the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm sorry. Zero circumstance. But at the very least, maybe we could do a quick reaction video, me doing a short, like, ranting about it. Later that night or the next day. Alexis wants a stream, but she always wants a stream. Fernando said, I always take my car for one little thing in the mechanic. For whatever reason, when I first saw that chat, Fernando, I thought you said the Motor City Machine Guns. I wish it was the fucking Motor City Machine Guns working on my car. But he said, and the mechanic finds a whole bunch of extra things wrong with my car. They do that every time because they just want the money for you to fix it. Okay, but is it something that needs to be fixed? Am I going to fucking drive off the road? Like, it's hard to trust these people. You know what I mean? The guy that I'm working with seems cool enough. He seems very nice and honest, but if it's not going to be covered by the warranty that I have with my car, then I don't fucking want it. Like, I mean, it depends. Am I going to drive into a ditch tomorrow or anytime soon? If the answer is yes, then we'll get it fixed. But if it's not, then we'll fix it down the road. Literally and figuratively. Richie said, Rhea does not need to win either. The only time I'm rooting for someone like Raquel to come into the ring or something. Yeah, I'm not saying Rhea needs the title. I'm just saying I'm already convinced that she's winning. They should have done more with Io as the women's champion for as long as she was champion. And she had that amazing match at Mania. She has kind of like the Omega run where Omega's been champion since March. Io's also been champion since March. And Io had an amazing one match at Mania, the amazing triple threat actually. And then she really hasn't done a whole lot else otherwise. Omega, kind of the same thing. He really hasn't done a whole lot much else otherwise, but he had that one amazing triple threat. So if nothing else, they had that one match to hang their hat on. But yeah, Rhea, they're really playing up the story that she's never beaten Io, which they were doing going into the match with Io on Raw back in March. So it's not even, I mean, you could have Io win, obviously. And I really want Io and Asuka, but they might even do that non-title. SummerSlam is 2 nights. And honestly, I'd be okay with that. I want Io and Asuka for the championship. But Io and Asuka in a non-title match, honestly, I might be okay with. I might be okay with that. I would be okay with that because it's a non-title story they can tell. And I'd be totally cool with that. And I'd be totally down for that. But yeah, Rhea does not need the title. To your point, Richie, I agree. Daniel says, if Goldberg beats Gunther, my ninja, I will crash out. You and me both, Daniel. Like, I will start posting on YouTube just for that alone. And we can do a collaboration, Daniel, of us crashing out over Gunther winning the World Heavyweight, or Goldberg, rather, winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Richie said, Goldberg's knees are tied together by Twizzlers. There's no way he can successfully hit any of his moves this Saturday. I guess that's what makes it must-see for the potential car crash of a match. Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad that All In seemingly will not be airing at the same time as Saturday Night's main event. I don't give a fuck about the Great American Bash. I really don't. Like I said earlier, the NXT shows can be good. Their most recent one was at Battleground, was a very forgettable show for the most part, aside from Trick winning the TNA title. I want to watch Saturday Night's main event. I think it will be a fine show. Hopefully one of the better installments, one of the more important installments. But that being said, I've advocated for title changes at Saturday Night's Main Event, that not being one of them. That is the championship that should change hands the least, is the World Heavyweight Championship in that particular circumstance between Goldberg and Gunther. Fernando says, for entertainment purposes, I hope Goldberg wins. We've been over this before, but you, Grunt, the rest of you guys that want Goldberg to win just so we can all crash out and watch the internet world burn are masochists, or whatever the word is. Daniel said, it's funny they mentioned driving into a ditch. Unfortunately, I actually did that once upon a time. LOL. Daniel, you can't just throw that out there without fucking, without like moving. Yeah. Oh yeah. First of all, Richie is funny as hell. And second of all, you can't just say that with an LOL and then just move on. I mean, obviously you survived, Daniel, but that's crazy. I've had some crazy, not crazy, but like some interesting driving experiences. I've been involved in some stuff. One of which was my fault, but nothing like too traumatic. No one got hurt or anything. But I can't say I've ever driven into a ditch. That's pretty crazy. Hopefully you're okay. Hopefully the car was okay, although it sounds like it wasn't. Grunt said, as a certified sicko. Also, by the way, one of these days we should just have a stream bullshitting about stories. We should just keep going back and forth with just the most random fucking stories. Story time with GSM here on the WrestleRant channel. And not just me, like everyone, just sharing random ass stories would be a fun time. Anyway, Grunt said, as a certified sicko, AEW nailing the landing with All In and Goldberg winning the world title on the same day would be fantastic for completely different reasons. Fuck you, Grunt. That's stupid. Absolutely not. You know what? You know what I hope happens, Grunt? I hope Gunther beats Goldberg, and I hope Jon Moxley beats Adam Page. Just so it would be a fantastic day for reasons of my own, just so I could see you upset. I kid. That would be terrible for all of us if Jon Moxley were to beat Adam Page. Or you know what would happen, knowing what the wrestling gods are capable of? Jon Moxley will beat Adam Page, and this honestly could realistically happen. Jon Moxley could beat and will beat Adam Page, and then Goldberg does win the belt and ends the show on top. That is what will happen. And you may not see me here on the channel after that. I know I said I might do a video ranting about it, but if both of those things happen on the same day, you may never hear from me again. Grunt said, I may very well do the jig. Fernando said, Io not defending her title since Mania and just losing to Rhea is wrong. I agree. Mania was 2.5 months ago to not have a single title defense in the meantime. And she was probably, to be fair, gonna face Liv before Liv got hurt. But she should have defended the championship before that. And she had matches on Raw with Roxanne Perez, and she was wrestling tag matches and having some great matches, but she wasn't defending the title. Grunt said, always great to read Richie's quips. I agree. Richie said, y'all are making me blush. Stop. No, Richie, you're fucking funny as hell. Richie is, and I can confirm this, having obviously met and spoken and hung out with Richie several times in person. Excuse me, over the years. Richie is as funny in person as he is here in the chat. Because some people are just funny online, but then you meet them in person, you see them in person. It's like, where does this humor come from? Like, they're only online funny, but Richie's funny regardless. Daniel said, cost a lot, but yeah, the car is actually good. That's crazy. I'm glad the car is still running and the car is good. After driving into a ditch, that's insane. Fernando said, on a slippery, rainy day, I once drove my car through a garage door. Holy shit, Fernando. Yeah, I can't say I've had any of those. I've never had any of those experiences. That's nuts. Hopefully no one was hurt. Hopefully you didn't, injure anyone inside the garage. That is pretty crazy, though. Daniel said, my girlfriend at the time broke up with me over it, but it is what it is. You know what? Fuck her. Fuck her, Daniel. First of all, you're better off with us here in the chat anyway. And second of all, even if she was in the car, she's lucky that you saved her life. You know what? She should be indebted to you, not breaking up with you. That doesn't make much sense. If she's breaking up with you over falling into a ditch, then she herself can go fall into a ditch. Because she is a bad person. Did you think I was going to say something else that rhymed with ditch? Because guess what? She's a bitch, too. Richie said, when I was 4, I lost my dad and sister at the Bronx Zoo. 2 employees hung on to me until I was found. In the interim, one of them gave me their apple to keep me fed, and I beat myself on their lap. What the fuck? How do you even remember this, Richie? Was this Story bestowed upon you? Like, how? I can't remember anything from when I was 4 years old. That's insane. I'll read that again for those that may have missed it. When I was 4, I lost my dad and sister at the Bronx Zoo. 2 employees hung on to me until I was found. In the interim, one of them gave me their apple to keep me fed, and I peed myself on their lap. That's crazy. Well, that's very nice of them to do that. And also, if I was an employee holding on to this kid that lost their parents and then he fucking peed himself. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, yeah. Hassan is making me scared here, saying Teddy Long just passed away. I did see his son passed away. Did Teddy Long himself pass away as well? I'm not seeing that. I'm checking Twitter real quick. You're scaring me here. I did hear that his son passed away. I forgot. I didn't see from what, but that is very unfortunate. Sorry to hear that, though. But I don't think he passed away. I don't think Teddy Long himself passed away. That would be sad. Sorry, I just had to interrupt the stream for that. Anyway, Noob said Io Sky as champion is more underwhelming than her first run as women's champion, the first time on the main roster. I actually liked Io's first run as champion. I think Io's first run as champion, she didn't have the same quality of match that she did at WrestleMania this year. But Io's first run as champion, first of all, was longer. She held it from SummerSlam to Mania. She had a great match on the main event of SmackDown with Io Sky, or with Asuka, did Io Sky. She had singles matches, I think, with Bianca, with Charlotte. She had a triple threat with Bianca and Charlotte. I think at Fastlane, I want to say that was a great match. She had a really good match on SmackDown with Michin. The Mania match with Bayley where she lost the belt was a great match. So I disagree. I actually do not think her first run was underwhelming at all. People will say that, but I don't really think they pay attention or watch the show. Was she like the focal point of the show? No. But she had some very good matches during that time period, in my opinion. Anyway, Daniel said she was not in the car. So she broke up with you and then heard about it or whatever and then still broke up with you? Well, fuck her. Maybe not literally, but, you're not with her anymore. But still, screw her. She does not deserve you, Daniel. Let's put it that way. Richie said bars. Fernando said just my wallet got hurt. Oh, from the garage thing? I'm sure. That's always where you take the most damage. Richie said it was a traumatizing experience because I was embarrassed. You're going to find that employee all these years later, all these decades later, and they're going to be like, hey, aren't you the kid that pissed on my, are you the person that pissed on me all those years ago? I remember you. That would be traumatizing. He also said, I also got lost at a Chuck E. Cheese, more so. I got scared and hid underneath the stairs of the ball pit. I mean, who hasn't got lost at a Chuck E. Cheese? I think I got lost at Disney World when I was a kid. So, I think we can all relate to that. Getting scared at Chuck E. Cheese, honestly, it's fucking Five Nights at Freddy's in that place. The fact that Chuck E. Cheese, by the way, is even still around. We were in Florida and we walked by a Chuck E. Cheese when we went to Disney last month. And I saw their new logo. I saw a commercial for Chuck E. Cheese recently. I'm like, that's their new logo? I was frightened. I was scared. I'm like, holy shit. This is scary. Who the fuck would ever want to bring their kid there? Fernando said, my goodness, when he said he lost his parents at the zoo, I thought he meant the animals got loose and attacked. Thank God it wasn't that. I'm sorry for laughing, but that is a very funny visual. That sounds like a fucking movie. That he lost his parents at the zoo as if like they died. I'm sorry, don't want to laugh at dead parents, but that's actually, the way that you wrote that, Fernando, was really funny. I'm sorry. I thought that the animals got loose and attacked them. Thank God it wasn't. Yeah, thank God. We laugh because it's not real, but if that was real, I would have a different tone. Watch, someone's going to chat in after the fact or during the stream and say, you know what, actually my parents were mauled to death by animals. Fuck you, you insensitive piece of shit. I agree, Maria. What a terrible girlfriend. You deserve better, Daniel. I agree. Maria also said, you got lost a lot as a kid, Reggie. I guess so. Richie said, that sounds like the beginning of a Roald Dahl story. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, no, seriously. And Grunt said, never been to a Chuck E. Cheese. Went to a local knockoff a few times as a kid, though. Was it called Five Nights at Freddy's? Yeah, I haven't been to Chuck E. Cheese in decades. I did go a few times as a kid, probably for birthday parties or just to go. It was a fun time as a kid. I just can't imagine being a parent now and bringing your kid there and not being fucking terrified of the animatronics and just the vibe in general. I can't imagine there's many kids that still go to Chuck E. Cheese. So if it's like almost abandoned and you're bringing your kid there and it's really just you and the animatronics, I would be terrified too. But I remember the pizza being good as a kid. Now it might be garbage, but yeah, Five Nights at Chucky's, exactly, Richie. I think I remember the pizza being good, so I will say that. Anyway, let's get back to the scheduled questions here. We'll come back to the chat in a little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, by the way, a quick reminder, a 12-year anniversary episode here today. We did our very first episode of hashtag AskGSM here on the channel 12 years ago today, if I'm not mistaken, when the show used to fall on Mondays. We did the show on Mondays from 2013 through 2016, then on Wednesdays from 2016 through 2024, and then on Tuesdays ever since the beginning of 2025. And here we are. Nonetheless, appreciate the support. Be sure to like the video if you haven't already, by the way, as you're watching today's show. Hit the thumbs up. Helps the show, helps the channel, helps in the algorithm bullshit. So please do that if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it. Jordan B., their question was from YouTube. He asked, if you could have rebooked someone else to be the last WWE CW champion, so the last WWE ECW champion, instead of Ezekiel Jackson, who would you choose? Would you rather have Christian be the last WWE ECW champion? Probably yes. I mean, at the time, and even now in retrospect, at the time I was very happy when Ezekiel Jackson won because I liked Ezekiel Jackson. Very nice guy, by the way. I met him years later, signed the replica Intercontinental title for me. Very nice guy. I was a big Ezekiel Jackson fan. And although the championship was not defended after that, it's not like as if he took the title to Raw or SmackDown. I was hoping that was an indicator that he would be pushed when he got to Raw or SmackDown. And he got moved to SmackDown soon after winning the ECW championship, but I think he got hurt. So then they moved him to Raw, and that didn't really work out. He moved to SmackDown. He did win the Intercontinental Championship, obviously, if he signed my belt, in 2011. Didn't hold it very long. But, I thought it was, cool that he got the belt, and that was kind of the peak of his push. It was pretty much downhill after that. But I liked Ezekiel Jackson. I thought the idea of him being the last ECW champion was cool. In retrospect, I always read the report that Vince didn't want a happy ending to ECW, and that's why they put Jackson over in the end. So ECW didn't end on this high note, all about the baby faces and all about the legends of ECW. It was just about closing that chapter as quickly as possible. So honestly, I can respect the fact they tried to put over Ezekiel Jackson in the end to kind of make a new star. The problem is it didn't really work out that way. In retrospect, I probably would have had Christian just be the last ECW champion. Would it have been uneventful for him to just retain the championship in his last match? Yeah, but maybe you can have him lose it to Jackson to the Rumble, because they had a match at the Royal Rumble in 2010 that was pretty good. And then he gets the belt back from Jackson on the last episode, because Christian was a great ECW champion. ECW, obviously, by that point, was not what it once was. But he was having some really good, and I think I talked about this last week or a while ago. Christian really helped. Like, it was basically NXT before NXT was NXT. Like, it wasn't about the rookies at that point, but they were introducing new faces on ECW in 08, 09, early 2010, before they closed down the brand. He was working with all those guys. He was working with the Yoshitatsus. William Regal wasn't a new guy, but they had a couple of good matches over that ECW championship. He was working with, Kozlov, Ezekiel Jackson, Zack Ryder, Shelton Benjamin. He had quality matches with all those guys, Tommy Dreamer. He was having some really, really good matches on ECW television, really carrying that brand from the time he came back in February 09 through when ECW closed in February 2010. So, yeah, in retrospect, they probably would have had Christian be the final ECW champion. Because the thing is like people talk about it now, like, oh, who was the final ECW champion? It's a guy that wasn't even in the business fucking 4 years later. Ezekiel Jackson left WWE in 2014, went to Lucha Underground, actually, for a little bit, interestingly enough. He also spent some time in TNA in 2014, 2015, so he was doing some stuff. But I think after 2014, 2015, I think he was gone. I don't think he's been back in any company since. He did some indie stuff recently. But it's not as if, like, it's a cool trivia note, like, oh, that guy was the last ECW champion. No, it was Ezekiel Jackson, who I like, but we haven't seen him in any company in over a decade, so it's not really that impressive. Like, if it's Christian, who's still active and is a legend, then it would be a nice accolade on his resume. Not that he really needs it, because he's already accomplished enough, but you know what I mean. At Iwagu91, their first question was, do you see Rhea Ripley winning the World Women's Championship, the Women's World Championship, rather, or Io Sky retaining at Evolution? I think Rhea Ripley wins. I said that before. I'll give my full predictions for the pay-per-view this Thursday on WrestleRant Radio with Mr. Marceau, but I do see Rhea Ripley winning the belt. I mean, they've really played up, even more so now than in March, that Rhea has never beaten Io. They're never going to not have her beat Io. So it's either now or later. And I would wait till later. I would love for Io to retain, and then we get Io and Asuka at SummerSlam. The issue with that is, what do you do with Rhea Ripley? And they can figure it out. God forbid she has non-title stories. I just don't really see a clear path for her on Raw right now, unless she's working with, like, Judgment Day still, which we've already seen a million times. Like, her and Roxanne's a fresh feud, but Roxanne's a part of Judgment Day. So, and Roxanne already got involved in the Raquel match in Night of Champions. I don't really need to see a continuation of that, at least not right now. So, I think she will win the championship. Honestly, even after she wins the championship, I'm not really sure who she works with. But I do think that match closes the show on Saturday, and they close the show with a title change. I feel bad for Io having to lose it in that fashion, but at least it's the main event of a pay-per-view. They always have great matches together. I do think she takes the title here, does Rhea, and then we can close that chapter and move on. It would be interesting, though. I guess at that point, she would have to then walk into the Australia pay-per-view. Is it Super Showdown or whatever it is in October? They're doing another Australia pay-per-view then. I guess she would then have to walk in as the women's champion, which is what happened last year. It would have been cooler if she wasn't champion and got the belt back on that show. I would keep the belt on Io until then, and then have Rhea take the belt on that show. But I guess it would make it even more obvious in 3 months that Io is going to lose it at that show. That's the ultimate destination. But, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But to answer your question, I do see Rhea Ripley winning the championship this weekend from Io Sky. At Iwagu91's second question, do you think that Fraxium should have surpassed the Ascension as the longest reigning NXT Tag Team Champions? Yes, they should have. Listen, I said this on Twitter not that long ago. It might have been months ago. I don't remember when it was. But I did say at the time, if Fraxium did not lose the championships for a fucking 3-week period, which was so pointless in retrospect, to Chase U last year, they would, I believe, have surpassed. I think they definitely would have surpassed, actually. The Ascension is the longest reigning NXT Tag Team Champions. Because I think they won the belts on the NXT after Stand and Deliver last year from Corbin and Breaker. That was when Mania was in early April. They lost the tag titles this year over Mania weekend at Stand and Deliver to Hank Walker. Yeah, isn't it Hank Walker? Tank Ledger and Hank Walker. Hank and Tank, whatever. They lost the belts at Stand and Deliver this year to them. Now, they did lose it, like I said, at Chase U. What was so dumb about that Chase U thing? That was part of the story they were telling with Ridge Holland, looking to disband the group, which was also pointless in retrospect because they brought back Chase U anyway, ultimately, which was so fucking stupid. It makes no sense. Chase U was already tag team champions back in 2023. Briefly, but they were already tag team champions the following, like the year prior. I think they beat the D'Angelo family to win the tag team titles before losing it to, I don't know if it was Corbin and Breaker. Who did Corbin and Breaker beat for the tag team titles in the first place? I don't remember. I know Corbin and Breaker won the Dusty Cup. The tag team division has been so poorly booked, I don't remember. Maybe you guys can let me know. But regardless, they didn't need the tag titles for a second time. I think it was 2 other members that won it the second time and not the original 2 members. But still, it was a complete fucking waste. They could have kept the belts on Fraxium. Fraxium is honestly, quite possibly, aside from the Undisputed Era, the greatest team in NXT history. Not stable, like tag team. Their tag team matches were awesome. They had some, they were also teasing tension the entire time before really finding chemistry as a team. That was an unexpected gem of a tag team, was Fraxium. They're on the main roster now, thankfully. They were not broken up, which it looked like was always the end game. They had a lot of great title defenses, though. Oh, and they would always win when you expected them to lose. That was the best part. The Ascension, I remember nothing about their run. From 2013 through 2014, they were champions. That was back when NXT wasn't what it would become, obviously. But the Ascension, who I liked at the time, and I still like the team in retrospect in NXT. When they got to the main roster, aside from the first month or so, they were fucking bums. Like, they were losers for the next 4 to 5 years on the main roster. And they were never given any real credibility. They never really won matches. They were booked as dominant when they first showed up. Vince got bored, buried them, and that was it. So for those guys to be the longest reigning NXT Tag Team Champions in history is just so mind-boggling to me because they amounted to nothing on the main roster, and that was a fucking decade ago. Like, you would think, just to be petty, they would have a team hold the belt for that long just to break the record, so it's not the fucking Ascension. It really should have been Fraxium. Like, that just bothers me. As a numbers guy, as a stats guy, as a records guy, it shouldn't bother me as much as it does, and it is stupid. It doesn't matter. But it's like the fucking Ascension, who aren't even a team anymore and haven't been since they left WWE and got fired 5-6 years ago. How the fuck are they the longest reigning NXT Tag Team Champions? And it wasn't even a great reign. Like, they may have had like 2 title defenses in the entire year that they were champions before they lost the belts to, was it the Lucha Dragons? I think it was the Lucha Dragons that were champions, who then lost it to Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake in early 2015. Like, I remember more about the tag division at that point than I have in the last 2 years, because the tag division has been complete garbage in the past 2 years in WWE. Anyway, your next question. If WWE had booked Dijak on the main roster when he was drafted to Raw last year, would he have eventually become a main event guy? Well, I don't think so, because if they had any interest in making Dijak a main event guy, he would still be there right now. It's not as if he left on his own accord. His contract expired. They did not renew him. They had no interest in booking Dijak as a top guy. I don't think Triple H ever really... Not that he didn't get it with Dijak, Vince even less so. But, like, even under Triple H, again, if he really wanted to keep Dijak, he would have given him a shot on the main roster. Didn't even give him a shot. Like, he was always ever just a mid-card guy in NXT. He hired him in the first place back in 2017 in WWE. But he was never really... Like, it took him forever to debut on the shows. And then when he finally debuted on NXT TV, he was only ever really a mid-card guy. Never won any championships, I don't think. Never won the North American title. Never won the NXT title. He was never going to be a main event guy in the main roster. Honestly, I'm not even really sure Dijak is a main event guy, period, in WWE. But the point is that he should have been given much more of a shot. Dijak is great. His character stuff really improved when he was in NXT this most recent stint, this most recent run. And then they just amounted to nothing. They did nothing to capitalize on that. Even to just put other people over. Like, they didn't even give him a shot. It's not as if they called him up and he was on the main roster for 6 months and they were like, yeah, it's not working out, we'll cut ties here. He was called up, quote unquote, like drafted back to Raw and never made a single fucking appearance on Raw before they let him go. So they clearly just did not... Triple H, you can't even blame Vince. Like, Triple H was the one in charge. He did not see Dijak as anything valuable on their main roster. And I think that's a shame because I think Dijak is very good. He's done some good work in MLW since he left WWE a year ago, which has been fun to follow. Hopefully he ends up on a bigger platform at some point. But yeah, I don't think Dijak's a world champion guy in WWE, but he should have been at least a mid-card guy. Like, he could have been an Intercontinental United States champion caliber competitor. With what he can do in the ring for a guy of his size and the promos, the quality of his promos improving as much as they did, he really should have been higher up in the pecking order than he was. At millennial_noob, his question was, the main headline for today's video. His first question, and after his next 2 questions, by the way, that's it for the scheduled questions. Not a whole lot this week, so we'll get back to the chat in a moment. But his first question was, is TKO setting up Evolution to fail? From the card to the build and, of course, the ticket sales, it seems like fans are not happy about the show at all. Good. I mean, listen, I think to say people aren't happy is not entirely accurate, because I'm looking forward to the show. There are people that are excited for the show. But you're right, between the very lazy build and the struggling ticket sales, and the fact the fact that the show is shoehorned onto All-In Weekend with Great American Bash and Saturday Night's Main Event, they do not give a fuck about Evolution. The only reason why they're doing it, like, why not bring it back last year or 5 years ago? Vince was in charge 5 years ago, but like, if Triple H really cared that much about this pay-per-view, he would have made it its own thing, not shoehorned in there with all these other events that you would think, oh, might actually add to it, so like people that are going to Saturday Night's Main Event might stick around for Evolution the next night. That's not necessarily true. Depending on the ticket sales, depending on how much the fucking tickets are, and they're definitely not cheap, I can tell you that much, I'm sure of that, people may only have enough money or have enough bandwidth to go to one show, not all 3. And they're going to go to Saturday Night's Main Event that has the bigger stars, Goldberg's last match. They're going to go to that over the women's pay-per-view that had almost no matches announced until a week or 2 ago. And the card on paper looks logical. The build was rushed for several of the matches, but it's a logical enough card. But I don't buy this bullshit that it's like, oh, if the show's good, then it doesn't matter. That's not true. Because the ticket sales are a big part of the success of these shows. And if the ticket sales suck, the women will be blamed for it. The women by this company will be blamed for not being a draw. And maybe there's a semblance of truth to that. I don't think there is a lot of truth. You could say, oh, yeah, they don't draw as well as the men because you don't allow them to. I'm not saying, we're not making the argument that the women are bigger draws than the men. That's a whole separate conversation. I'm not even arguing that. My point is that they're slotted in a certain way, then they're not going to have the opportunity to be able to draw as much as the men and have big marquee matches that are built up over time if you're announcing shit at the last minute and there's no real storylines. There's way more storylines with the men and matches that make sense and marquee matches. With the women, it's like, oh yeah, we'll just go back to this real quickly. Like Io and Rhea, their history thankfully sells people itself because they've been feuding on and off for so long, dating back to the Mae Young Classic 7 years ago. But they really haven't interacted at all until last week. Before last week, they moved away from each other for like a month and a half, and now all of a sudden we're right back to it after Io did not really do much as champion. Tiffany and Trish should have gotten more of a build. It came together less than a week ago in the most random way possible where Tiffany could pick her own opponent. Fucking lazy. The best built match on this show is easily the triple threat for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. That has been very well built. The matches have been great. That I'm on board with. The Battle Royal is cool. I like the Battle Royal. The tag team title shit, no one cares about the tag team titles. The Kabuki Warriors did nothing to earn that opportunity, earn entry into that match. Sol Ruka and Zarya, great team, did nothing to earn opportunity, earn entry into that match. Raquel and Roxanne, a makeshift team because Liv got hurt. I get it. Liv's injury kind of fucked some stuff up. I understand that. But it's not as if they were really overly promoting Evolution up until last week, because they weren't. They were more focused on Saturday Night's Main Event and Night of Champions and all this other sort of stuff. They clearly do not give a fuck about this show. They were using the women and have used the women. Very clear to me. And you could say I'm complaining all you want, but it's true. They have used the women as a vehicle to hurt AEW by stacking the weekend with so much wrestling. And it's not as if they're in the same city. But like, maybe I won't spend money on buying All In if I'm watching Evolution, which is on Peacock anyway, so it's not really applicable. But why do you think they do these big weekends on weekends where AEW is having the biggest weekend of their year? To stick it to AEW. Why do you think they're running the Great American Bash at the same time? The funny thing, and what they don't really realize, a couple things here. One, like to run Evolution the same day as like the All-Star Game, the same like night, I think too. Maybe it's the same weekend because I think All In is also, if that's running the same time as the All-Star Game, I'm not sure. But like they're doing the afternoon on purpose because it was probably going to be that night. But then WWE, of course, had to go ahead and book Saturday Night's Main Event at the exact same time, which they did on purpose. Do not be fucking dumb. They did that on purpose. But, like, there's also a Beyonce concert right down the street from Evolution. I mean, if I only have enough money and I like Beyonce and I like the women's wrestlers, I'm going to go to a Beyonce concert, honestly. That seems like a bigger deal that has a better build, quote-unquote. I joke. But my bigger point was that every time, a lot of the time, when WWE tries to stick it to AEW, by doing something either the same day or running a show in the same venue. Not the same venue, but like, well, yeah, kind of like their ECW show. They're doing an NXT show, the ECW Arena, I think, or a WWE show, whatever it is. The week before AEW goes there next month, they do that. They run shows in the same towns of house shows, and they run, Saturday Night's Main Event the same night as fucking Double or Nothing and stuff like that. They do that on purpose to stick it to them, and it typically backfires. NXT is not as big of a draw as AEW. I'm sorry. Just because it has the WWE branding, they're calling it WWE Great American Bash. It's not a fucking WWE show. It's an NXT PLE that, quite frankly, has a fucking awful looking card compared to what some of their other shows have looked like, specifically Stand and Deliver and other shows like that. This is the weakest NXT PLE card I have seen in a very long time. They think that's an actual threat to AEW? Of fucking course not. It's not a threat whatsoever. That's the problem. Like, they think by, putting all these shows up against AEW, which they do care. Like, to claim otherwise is just being obtuse. If you think WWE doesn't care about the competition and sticking it to AEW, whether it's WWE or TKO or whoever, you just have not been paying attention, because this has been the case when Vince was in charge. It has not changed with Triple H being in charge. That is the culture of this company. That's how they operate. Okay? Every single time, it ends up hurting WWE. No one is going to watch the NXT show. No one fucking cares. If you were watching, I'm sorry, I love wrestling, but if you were watching that NXT show over All In, you should probably question your fandom. I mean, you must be the most diehard of diehard NXT fans to watch that fucking card over All In. And I'm not one to shame people over what they're watching, but that is one specific instance where I'm like, why the fuck would you watch this show over what AEW is offering with All In at the exact same time? That will be 10 times better. If it's not your thing, then cool. That's totally fine. But WWE does it, and it ends up hurting people like the NXT roster or the women the next night. That's what bothers me about this. So in a way, yes, they have been set up to fail. Every reason, whether it be up against AEW's weekend, the bad build, some things are out of their control, like the Liv Morgan injury and stuff like that. I get it. But you could have started to build stuff and, generate better storylines months ago. But this is just an overall representation of how little WWE gives a fuck about their women's division. They care, but they don't care enough. That's my point. For all the stars they have, and for as good of a roster as WWE has with their women, the best it's probably ever been on the whole, to be quite honest with you, across all three brands, the build should be better. This should be a bigger deal. But it's not. His last question here before we go back to the chat, speaking of the women, he said, is it just me or why is Asuka going back to the women's tag team division with Kairi Sane again? I get a weird feeling that we are getting an Asuka heel turn at Evolution, because I believe that a reunion between the Kabuki Warriors ain't going to last long this time around. Yeah, I think they're only doing this to get Asuka on the card and not have her be a random participant in the fucking Battle Royal, which would have been a waste. She just came back. She was in the finals of the King of the Ring or the Queen of the Ring tournament 2 weeks ago. It would be dumb for her to just be a fucking another person in the Battle Royal. I mean, the tag title match isn't much better, but it's better than nothing, and it makes sense because she has history with Kairi. It doesn't make sense that Charlotte and Alexa Bliss would have to earn entry into the match, but Ruka and Zarya and Asuka and Sane would not have to. That doesn't make sense. But putting that aside, I could see a situation where Asuka, like you said, a heel turn coming at Evolution or afterwards. I could see that. I could see her turning on Kairi, and then we get Asuka and Io at SummerSlam, probably non-title, assuming Rhea wins the Women's World Championship at SummerSlam. I could totally see that. And honestly, that'd be fine by me. So yeah, I don't see the Kabuki Warriors reunion lasting. WWE, to go back to what they don't give a fuck about, they care even less. If you talk about, like I talk about how they don't care as much as they should about the women's division, they care even less about that tag team division. They do not give a fuck about those belts, because if they did, they would not have broken up and or released as many teams as they did this year between Alba Dawn and Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. They broke them up. They broke up the fucking, was it PCB? No, that's the team from 10 years. I'm reading Becky's book right now. She's talking about Team PCB. What was the team that had Sonya Deville? I don't even remember. They broke up Sonya's team. They released her and Shayna Baszler. Zoe Stark got hurt anyway. They broke up Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. They released both of them. Metaphor, they broke up. They don't give a fuck about women's tag teams, bro. They just don't. So I don't see the Kabuki Warriors reuniting in the tag division. That would be a waste anyway of both women, specifically Asuka. I do see this being a transitional match just to get her on the show in a bigger match in the Battle Royal. And then, like you said, maybe she'll turn heel. Probably for the best. I think Raw has too many babyface women anyway at the top of the division. And then she can feud with Asuka. Or Asuka can feud with Io, rather. Going into SummerSlam, and maybe Kairi factors in somewhere into that match, into that feud. So those are all the scheduled questions. We'll get back to the chat here before we call it a day. Let's backtrack a little bit here. A lot of chats. Thank you guys for chatting in, being active in the chat. We will address it all before we head on out of here. Probably not soon. Probably in a little while, because I got to get through all these chats. Grunt said, I need to get myself to a Medieval Times one day. Funny you mentioned that. Speaking of our anniversary, today being our anniversary, Alexis and I, we actually went to Medieval Times for our anniversary. It was something she wanted to do for a long time. We went to the one in New Jersey, and it worked out well to where we stayed there for like a weekend, and we also went to the Rainforest Cafe. How romantic. She always wanted to go to one of those. I mean, she had been to one before, but like we had never been together. So we went to Rainforest Cafe, and we did that that same weekend. So it was fun. Medieval Times was cool, though. I would go back. There's actually the one that we went to in New Jersey, that's where I'll be for SummerSlam. She won't be joining me on that trip, so maybe if anyone's going to SummerSlam, maybe we can go to Medieval Times together. We can go there for dinner before SummerSlam. Millennial Noob said, with all the women's tag teams all set for the Fatal 4-Way at Evolution 2, which women's tag team win on Sunday? It's obvious it'll be Judgment Day or Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. I think it'll probably be Judgment Day, and then you build the Bliss and Charlotte winning the tag titles probably at SummerSlam. You can have Bliss and Charlotte win on Sunday. Like I said, it really does not matter. But I think Judgment Day retain. Richie said, you should make a video of yourself reacting to your first episode of #AskGSM. I can't. I could. Literally, I could. I don't know if I can bring myself to do so. It would just be so cringeworthy. I would have been 18 at the time. I think I would have just turned 18. The videos exist. I mean, every episode of Hashtag that we've done, I think, funnily enough, the second week I was going to do the show, I was having laptop issues. So I couldn't record an episode that week, so I just did it on my website instead in like a newsletter form. That was the only time I've ever done a written version of this show. People sent in questions I couldn't record, though. So I just did a written version instead. Beyond that, we've done videos for every single episode, dating back to, I think that was, like, I didn't skip, like, if you go back through the playlist, that was not even a real episode. That was like a one-off secret episode that was like a newsletter. Every video I've ever done, every episode that I've really done has all been over video. And we've done over 600 of them. Now a lot of them live, which is cool. And I like doing the live component. We've been doing the live episodes weekly since the beginning of the year, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. It's also just easier. Daniel said, I swear Charles E. Cheesington pizza is good as hell, but it gets such bad reviews, LOL. I might have to go back, honestly. I mentioned that the pizza was good. I have not been there in a very, very, very long time, although I feel like I might be arrested. If I show up without a kid, and I just show up there, especially on my own, looking to order pizza, they might have me arrested, because that would be strange. But maybe we can, maybe I'll go there with Alexis and make it a little less strange, and we can try the pizza the next time we're in the area of a Chuck E. Cheese, and they're very far and few between these days. Richie said Ezekiel Jackson is the only right answer as far as the last ECW champion thing. And I do agree, Daniel, his music was fucking dope. I still listen to his music. I mean, we talked about Ezekiel Jackson here a couple of months ago on the channel, because I could sing you the music. I could sing you the lyrics. I think it's, this year, what you call domination, it's a combination of skill and concentration. So rise to the occasion, do something amazing. Anything that I do, I dominate it. Don't ask me how I know that. I just fucking love the song. I've always loved the song, still listen to the song, not consistently, but I still know the lyrics. Fun fact about me in that regard. Noob said, I pretty much believe that Asuka might turn on, I guess going off of your question. He said, I pretty much believe that Asuka might turn on Kairi Sane because it might tie into the whole Io Sky and Damage Control storyline title match, or not because it'll be a good story. Yeah, I think so too. It's probably the way to go. I would have the title involved, but it's probably not going to. It's okay. Maria said he became the Pope D'Angelo De Niro in TNA. No, that's not Ezekiel Jackson, Maria. That is someone else. Yes, like Daniel said, you're confusing Ezekiel Jackson with Elijah Burke. Different E name. But I liked Elijah Burke as well. I've never met him, but I did interview him years ago. Good dude. Noob said it's Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel, the pay-per-view. Liv screws EO, Eric said. Oh, I don't think Liv shows up. It wasn't a fucking, like a slinging, like arm in her sling. Her arm in a sling. I don't see that happening. Richie said, WWE should have no title change happen this Sunday at Evolution and book Nikki Bella versus Io Sky. It's very clear that Io has always looked up to Nikki. Why not book the damn dream match for SummerSlam? Honestly, Richie, you make a good point. No lies detected. That's what she said. She's always looked up to Nikki. Back when they were doing bras and panties matches and she was having 30-second title defenses back in 2014. Eric said they lost it back to the D'Angelo family. Oh, okay, there you go. So D'Angelo family won the tag titles in the summer of 2023. Chase U then won it from them, and then D'Angelo family won it back. I have no idea why. It's an absolute waste. So my point, that was a waste, but they also gave the belts to Chase U a year later, again, for no fucking reason. They should have just kept the belts on Fraxium. I hope Wesley Blake and his family are doing well. Yes, I agree. For those unaware, Wesley Blake was actually married to Sarah Lee, I want to say her name was. She won Tough Enough. She was a Tough Enough competitor back in 2015, and she actually was involved. I think she died. Actually, she has since passed away. I think it might have been suicide, which is crazy. Yeah, which is pretty insane. So yes, he was married to her, and I hope he's doing well. I think he still works for WWE as a producer, but I could be wrong. Richie said Keith Lee should have dropped the NA title to Dijak rather than become a double champ and relinquish it in retrospect. I agree. He just won the tag. He just won both belts and then immediately just gave up the North American title. I fucking hate when they do that. I know it's weird to have your world champion pin for a mid-card title, but I feel like that makes more sense than what they did with Stephanie. I hate when people win 2 titles and they just vacate the other belt. Have them get beaten for it. I just feel like that makes more sense. To win a title, hold it for so long, and then just give it up, it's like no one really gets over that way. No one really gets the rub by beating the champion who's been dominant for so long. Funny you mentioned that, though. I think it was 5 years ago today that Keith Lee won that title for title match against Adam Cole at the Great American Bash edition of NXT. 5 years ago today. I saw that on Twitter this morning. That's crazy it's been that long. Eric said, okay, so the team's Chase U beat was D'Angelo family for Axiom the first time. Okay. Daniel said it's wild that Dijak, when he got called up, he knew he was screwed. Yeah, he must have known. All right, I'm fucked. They have no plans for me. My contract's not getting renewed. He knew that. Yeah, Eric, I mentioned the Beyonce concert. I don't think I mentioned that when you mentioned it in the chat, but I did end up talking about that, how the Beyonce concert also is going on at the same time, right down the fucking road from Evolution. Daniel said, it's wild Liv getting hurt, screwed up the Evolution plans so much. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I don't think the build would have been much better. It's not as if they were really building towards much even before the injury went down, but it did fuck up quite a bit, apparently. Maria said, Dijak and Keith Lee had classic matches and both dropped off the face of the earth. Yeah. Well, Dijak is still around. Keith Lee indicated recently on Twitter that he's okay, that he's not being held back for medical reasons. I thought that was the reason. Maybe I'm misreading it, but it sounded like he's good to go, and there's just no plans to bring him in right now. Would love to see him on AEW television very soon, maybe even this weekend in Texas, but I don't know. It sucks that they're off they're not working together elsewhere in other companies, and those matches they had back in 2017 on the Indies were really special. Daniel said, let's see, or he was responding to Maria. Richard said, just looked up the Great American Bash card, and that thing is cheeks. I agree. I mean, I'll be watching it, reviewing it at some point, but certainly not live, I'll tell you that much. I guess they're saving the good for Slammiversary. TNA is a much better product. Slammiversary looks like a much better card than fucking Great American Bash. I'll tell you that much. Like, Trick is not on Great American... He is. They're doing a contract signing. Okay. I mean, they just did a whole talking segment with the 3 TNA title, people and the TNA title match at Slammiversary on TNA Impact last week. How will the contract signing this weekend be any different? Daniel said, random, but Lola Vice's theme song is effing fire. We've been over this before, but hot take here, I don't agree. I hate her theme song. It's that don't like it at all. It's just not badass. It sounds like a song I'd hear on the radio like 20 years ago. Like, oh, it's like, okay. I might hear that at like a cookout or something, like just, chilling in the background. But like as a wrestling theme song, I don't like it at all. I'm not even a big Lola Vice fan, period. But I think she's talented. But some of her, like, I don't know, mannerisms or promos are terrible. But her mannerisms are also a little cringy to me. But that's just me. I know I'm very much in the minority on that. Eric said, the only thing I see interesting about Great American Bash is the JC versus Jordan match because the winner gets Masha and maybe Itamura versus... you're talking about Yoshiki Inamura. You spelled Inamura wrong by quite a bit. Yeah, Inamura... and now I'm reading your fucking chat. Yoshiki Inamura versus Oba should be good. JC and Jordan's not at a Great American Bash. That's Evolution. So you can't even include that. That's not even happening at Great American Bash. You're right. The winner gets Masha at Slammiversary. But JC and Jordan is at the Evolution show the next night. It's not at Great American Bash. They're doing a tag team match instead. Daniel said, was doing the salsa to Lola Vice's theme at the NXT CW debut. That's funny. I forgot that was in Chicago, so you would have been there. That's cool. Eric said, if you were booking Evolution, how would you book it? It's a good question. I think I talked about this last week. I think Rhea and Io it's honestly not even the card itself. It's just that I would have began build. Like, why did we need another Nia and Tiffany match? Did we really need that match? Like, the rekindling of that feud? We really didn't. Like, they should have moved away from that and started the Trish thing weeks ago. It's not even like the card itself. It's just that they should have started building this stuff a while ago. Jade and Naomi makes sense. I would do like a much more hardcore match than just a fucking no holds barred. We've seen that before. I saw someone say an ambulance match. I think that would have been cool. Last woman standing. Maybe not do it with Tiffany and Nia, which wasn't a great match anyway, and then do it with Jade and Naomi. I think that would have worked better. Alexa and Charlotte could have had a singles match, but they want to have them team, so fine. Asuka and Io would have been sick, but I would have built that up in advance. Bianca and Rhea would have been perfect, but Bianca's hurt, so that could have messed up some stuff. Liv and Nikki would have been the match, or the tag title match with the Bella Twins, who I don't give a fuck about. But Liv got hurt, so I get it. Stephanie and Io also would have been a great match for Evolution. I honestly probably would have preferred that, so we can prolong Io and Rhea. Rhea could have done something else on this show. Maybe bring back Beth Phoenix. Like, Rhea and Beth would have been cool, and then Io and Stephanie. There's any number of possibilities. And like Eric said, they could have done Asuka versus Io. Exactly. Just with more build. If they rushed into that, I would have been pissed. At least rushing back into Rhea and Io makes sense because they at least have history they can build off of. Asuka and Io have history, but not as opponents. All that much anyway. Pure Fusion Collective were their names. I totally forgot, honestly. Thank you. The name of Sonya's faction with Sheena and Zoe. Noob said, I just mentioned that. Eric said, didn't Tatum and Izzy beat Zaruka? They did. That's the funny thing. Not in like a qualifying match, but they fucking beat them on NXT, I think last week, bro. They beat them on TV last week. And yet it's Zaruka and Zarya getting the title shot. Make that make sense. Because it doesn't make sense. Anyway. Maria said, as a woman, WWE is telling me they don't care about women's wrestling with how and where it's booked. I agree. That's the message I'm getting from the booking of Evolution. I agree with that. Noob mentioned Chemical X, Shotzi, Gigi, and Tatum. WWE broke them up as well. You're right. Another tag team they fucking broke up and released 2/3 of. The Iconics should win the WWE tag titles at Evolution. Fernando was really high on this idea. I do not really care to see that. I don't think they're going to book the main women's tag titles from the main roster in TNA with the Inspiration. I just don't see that happening. I don't really give a fuck about the Inspiration anyway, to be honest. They've just never been great to me. They're just very annoying. But in TNA, I think they're a fine fit. Back in WWE, cool. If they want to make a cameo, cool. Give them the WWE tag titles. They had those tag titles once before, and it was not pleasant. That reign was one of the worst they've ever had in the last 6 years of those titles. One of the worst WWE women's tag titles reigns I've ever seen was the Iconics back in 2019. An absolute waste of time. Maria said that she's down for Medieval Times. There you go. I might see you there at Slammiversary. I want to go to Slammiversary. I'm not sure if I will, though. I hope to see you there at SummerSlam, if I even go to SummerSlam. That is the point. That's the plan, anyway. Grunt said, happy 12 years. Thank you, Grunt. Grunt also said, I'm down for that reaction idea, Richie. I've always had this idea, maybe not of reacting to my own videos, but reacting to articles I may have written at the time and see what I got right, see what I got wrong. I hate watching myself, so I'm not sure how that would go. But like reading old articles of mine, even that I would still cringe at, I think. But, it might make more sense. That's an idea I've always had. Daniel said fire. The lyrics to Zeke's music makes me love you even. Yet, the fact that I know the lyrics to Zeke's music, again, I just don't know how I know it. I just do. I just know the lyrics. I don't know why, but I do. Grunt said, I could see them booking the Unified Championship like WWE booked the world title during its last few active years, 2010 through 2013. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because the World Championship during 2010 through 2013, Grunt, was fucking terrible. So I would hope that it's not the World Championship of 2010 through 2013. You're talking about people like Jack Swagger holding that championship. the Big Show challenging for it. I mean, Orton and Christian was great in 2011, but Alberto Del fucking Rio feuding with Jack Swagger in 2013 was butt cheeks. So I would sure as fuck hope that it's not the same as the world title from WWE. Do not even make that comparison. That is a slap in the face of whatever this unified championship is going to be in AEW. Eric said Becky and Seth got their house broken into. Yeah, I saw that right before we went live. Not like their normal house where they live like actively, but their summer beach house, I guess. I saw it got burglarized according to TMZ. I didn't see anything else beyond that. Noob said, let's see. What did Noob say? That's Elijah Burke, and he's still playing the character ever since he was in the NWA during the Lightning One era of the first year of NWA Power. Yes, he's not in NWA anymore, and he hasn't been for years, but he was still the Pope in NWA. That's when I interviewed him, actually, when he was in NWA years ago. Maria said, I don't remember Sarah Lee Rip anyway. Yeah, she was never on NXT television, I'll tell you that much. She was on Tough Enough, but she was never on NXT TV. Daniel said she unalived herself and left dude with multiple kids. Yeah, very sad situation. We don't know the details. We don't know what was going on. I don't know what was going on there, but it's a very sad situation nonetheless. Grunt said Kurt Angle definitely did it right in 2007 when he won all the TNA titles. He actually advocated to drop the X Division title to Jay Lethal. Oh, that's pretty cool. I wasn't watching TNA at the time, so I don't really know what they did with Kurt Angle as the multi-time champion and whether he was dropping belts or relinquishing them. Noob said that's a dumb rule on NXT. Hold both titles and then let go of the other one. Yeah, like when you say let go, I say get beaten for them. I would not have them just relinquish it. I've never liked that. I've always thought that was very stupid. Richie said, love me some Joe. And also, if you're a double champion, why would you not want to hold both belts? Richie said, love me some Joe Hendry, but Mike Santana needs the title right now, I feel. I agree. I love Joe Hendry as well, but he had his run. Mike Santana should be the next TNA World Champion. I would do it at Slammiversary because they're in New York anyway. Why wait until Bound for Glory? Like, they waited until Bound for Glory. They didn't even do it at Bound for Glory, but they waited with Joe Hendry. Why wait with Mike Santana? Trick does not need to be champion past Slammiversary. Have Santana win it at Slammiversary, please. Fernando said, is Wardlow still injured? I don't think he's been injured for a very long time. He's on that American Gladiator show, so he can't be that injured, right? Grunt said, when you make the WWE Ruthless Aggression era Great American Bash cards look good by comparison. Oh, those shows are far better. I would rather watch almost any Great American Bash from the 2000s than I would this Great American Bash show coming up this weekend. I'm sorry. Daniel said, dude, I wish you could see my face right now. In relation to, what did I say? In relation to the Zeke thing or something else? Fernando said, I agree, Richie. Santana needs to win in his hometown. I agree. Eric said, oh, I forgot it was at Evolution. Richie said, I may cry if Santana wins. Yeah, I hope he does. It would be a great moment. He's deserved it. Mike Santana is fucking awesome, man. He has really come into his own as a single star, really become, a great part of TNA. He is, a star on the rise. Real star on the rise. So I really hope he wins. Daniel said, another random question, but are you down for a Mets game? With the eye emoji. Yes and no. Daniel, if you're asking me to go to a Mets game with you, the answer is yes. I would go with you. I'll give you a little inside baseball here, pun intended. I've gone to a lot of Mets games. I've gone to a lot of Mets games, period, because my entire family, specifically my dad, stepdad, brother, they're all big, big Mets fans. So I've been to a lot of Mets games with them. We all went to a Mets game 3 years ago that Alexis joined me at. 2 years ago, I went to a Mets game. I think we took my stepdad to a Mets game. Last year, I went to a Mets game with my dad and my brothers. And then also 2 years ago, we were in the city anyway. Alexis and I were. And we went to a Mets game because LA Knight was throwing the first pitch and he was also hosting the game, like throughout the night. And I was hoping to get an interview with him while we were there, and it almost happened, but it didn't, blah, blah, blah. It didn't end up working out. But the game was good. I think they won. And LA Knight was very entertaining. And it was a worthwhile experience. It was fun. My point is, I've been to a lot of Mets games in the last couple of years. I'm not like begging to go to another one. My brothers were trying to make it an annual thing to go to a Mets game with my dad. I'm like, it's just too much travel for me. As far as, I mean, you could drive there from Connecticut. I'm not fucking driving in New York. I'm sorry. I'm not parking in New York. I'm not driving in New York. I'd rather die. In New York State itself, not necessarily, but anywhere New York City or the Bronx, Queens, whatever, absolutely not. I'd be fucking terrible with that. So then if I'm not driving, then I'm taking the train, but it takes about 50 minutes to get to a train station, 2 hours from the train, take a subway into Mets Park, and then the whole thing over again. It's just a lot, especially when the games end late. So it's not something I'm clamoring to do anytime soon. I've had my fair share of Mets games in recent years. We pivoted and are doing something different with my dad instead. But all of that to say, if you, Daniel, are asking me to go to a Mets game, or honestly, it's not even just baseball, because I would go to any other sports game. Like, for example, last SummerSlam, Alexis and I, when we were in Cleveland for SummerSlam, we went to a Guardians game, which was my idea. The old Indians team, obviously. Watched Major League before we went. Went to the game, had a great time. I had a great time. It was a fun game. It's fun. I like to go to stuff like that in the towns in which I travel to. Now, that's not always possible. Some of the places I go to, like in the winter, there's no MLB baseball. Or actually, no, yeah, there's no MLB baseball in January, but around the time of the Rumble. But like SummerSlam weekend the year before, RJ and I went to, kind of off the cuff, we went to a Tigers game in Detroit. So it would be fun to go to like a baseball game, make it a tradition to go to a baseball game in the city in which I'm in for SummerSlam, because I've done that in the last couple of years. In New Jersey, I'm just not a big New Jersey. I mean, how easy would it be to get to a Mets game when I'm in New Jersey for SummerSlam, I guess is my question. I don't know. Or like another sports team or something. I just don't know. But the answer, Daniel, for you would probably be yes. It might be an eventually type of thing, but I would consider it. And even not necessarily a Mets game, but maybe just any sports team and any baseball game. Or I love basketball too. I love watching going to basketball games. I don't watch basketball on TV at all, but I like going. I went to a Celtics game last December with Alexis's brother and her dad, and it was fun. We got the tickets for her brother's birthday. Anyway, Pseudo talks wrestle. Yo, Graham and everyone, what up, y'all? What up, Pseudo? Great to see you in the chat. Long time no see. Hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining us on our 12-year anniversary episode. Grunt said, not in terms of quality of champions. I'm talking in terms of the amount of TV time, build, and placement on cards. I'd argue it was terrible because it was a world title. Yeah, in that sense, I could see what you mean as far as, I still would not compare whatever this new unified championship in AEW is to a world title in WWE in the early 2010s, because it was garbage. And even Maria said, I would rather drink bleach than watch Swagger versus Alberto again. Yeah, me too. But anyway, yeah, I understand what you're saying. In terms of TV time and placement on cards, the Unified Championship should still be higher than that. I know what you're saying, but I think the Unified Championship should still be treated with more respect than the World Heavyweight title was. Because even at that point, the World Heavyweight title was not even main eventing SmackDowns most week, because it just meant nothing. It was a joke of a belt. Grunt added on that to say the Intercontinental title in the early 2010s would have killed to be booked the same way like the world title was being booked at that time. Brother, that's not a good comparison. The IC title at that point was fucking garbage too. Of course the IC title would have killed to be booked the same way as the World Heavyweight. I don't know why you're glazing the World Heavyweight Championship. The World Heavyweight Championship from 2010 to 2013, aside from a few short periods, was fucking worthless. WWE treated the WWE title far more like a priority and an actual title worth fighting for than that World Heavyweight Championship. The World Heavyweight Championship was the Intercontinental title. The World Heavyweight Championship was a glorified mid-card belt. The Intercontinental Championship, which should have been the mid-card belt, was a lower mid-card belt that meant nothing. The lower mid-card belt meant nothing. The Intercontinental belt from 2010, 2011, who the fuck was even champion? Ezekiel Jackson, which we talked about? Who gives a shit? Wade Barrett had 5 runs that no one cared about. Kofi Kingston had a bunch of runs that no one really gave a fuck about. The Miz held it a few times, cool. Hot potato title runs. The Intercontinental title, of course, would have been killed to be in that spot because the IC title also meant nothing compared to what it should have been. Fernando said Kurt Angle's TNA run is very underrated. Of course it is. It was. I don't know if it's underrated. Honestly, I think a lot of people would consider his TNA run to be better than his WWE run. And honestly, I'm not sure that's a hot take because there is an argument to be made there that Kurt was more in his prime and peak in TNA, spending more time there than he did in WWE, than the stuff he did in WWE, which obviously a lot of amazing matches in WWE. But his TNA run had the matches with Samoa Joe, that iconic series of matches with Joe, all the matches with AJ Styles, the main event Mafia stuff, the matches with Sting, Jeff Jarrett, Jeff Hardy. I mean, the list goes on and on. Bobby Roode. Pseudo said, doing well, Grunt. How are you doing? Grunt, let's see. Maria said, shame on me. I thought Mike Santana was just a tag team talent trying to make it as a singles. That's what I thought too when he left AEW, but he proved me wrong. I'm glad to have been wrong. I really did not care about Santana breaking off on his own. I thought that was a dumb idea because Santana and Ortiz were such a great team. But I am very happy with how far he's come since he left AEW and broke off on his own. He's done a great job. Grunt said Leafs game, ? I'd consider it. Is that obviously a baseball game, I'd imagine. The next time I'm in Canada, sure. I would certainly consider. I've been to actually a baseball game in Canada. I went to Toronto as a kid back in 2007, and I think we went to a Blue Jays game, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. If the Leafs are, that's a hockey, I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs, talking about the hockey team, I don't know anything about sports, really. At least not Canadian teams. I think you're talking about hockey. I'd go to that. Daniel said, if needed, you're more than welcome to crash my place. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. If so, I will hit you up and potentially take you up on that offer. I should be fine, but I appreciate the offer, and if needed, I might send you a text. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Fernando said, did you enjoy the Pacers run throughout the playoffs and almost winning the NBA championship? Like I said, Fernando, I think you sent that in too soon. I do not watch basketball on TV at all. I don't. I like watching more than that. I like watching the documentaries and going to games. I've been to one NBA game, I think. I may have been to other ones. I go to local college basketball games. My dad loves that shit here in Connecticut. We do that. I like the environment there. And I went to one Celtics game. That's it. That's the only basketball I've consumed live. And I also don't watch on television. But I love watching basketball documentaries and basketball movies. Space Jam, I don't know if that counts, but I love Space Jam. And I loved, maybe it's just because I'm a Michael Jordan fan, but I cannot tell you how much I loved and how much this is among my favorite documentaries, The Last Dance. It took me years to finally watch the entire thing. I put it off for so long. Finally watched The Last Dance a few years ago. Loved it. All 10 episodes. I was in a big basketball mood after that. I bought a bunch of basketball books to read that I still haven't gotten to. But yeah, The Last Dance was awesome. And I also loved that Winning Time show that HBO did. I watched both seasons of that and really enjoyed it. But if you're asking about the Pacers, I can't speak to that because I do not pay attention to NBA basketball on television. Grunt said, all right, I yield. It should be treated as just a step or two below the world title is all I'm saying. That I agree with, Grunt. That I agree with. The Unified title will not be the AEW World Championship, but it should be pretty fucking close. If that's what the rumor is, and I would agree with that. Pseudo says, I personally think WWE could do things that add meaning and prestige to championships. The U.S. champ should be the one who represents WWE as a guest in huge American sporting events. Intercontinental champion should be the one who leads in meet and greets and international tours. WWE champion obviously should, in general, be the face of the company. I like that a lot, Pseudo, but I think you're putting way more thought into it than WWE ever would. I just don't expect that to happen. That would be cool. That would make sense if they actually took the names of the titles seriously and they had the U.S. champion be the guy or whoever, the woman too, because there was a Women's United States Championship. Do a lot of the American stuff and whatever, and then when they go on international tours, they're the actual Intercontinental Champion. You're not going to only have the United States Championship defended in the States and then only have the Intercontinental Championship defended outside of the States, obviously. But the way that you're wording it, I think that'd be cool. I just don't see that that's never going to happen. WWE would never actually take it that seriously, but that would be cool. And then you added the World Heavyweight Champion should be the one who makes appearances in the developmental shows for young up-and-coming stars. I mean, that isn't really necessary. You could have the WWE Champion do that as well, but the US and IC stuff I think is cool. I just don't think WWE will ever put that much thought into it because they just don't care. But I like the thought that you put into it, though. Fernando said, what are your thoughts on the castings for the live-action Street Fighter movie? I've followed it, like I've heard about it through Twitter. I can't really say I care. I've never been a Street Fighter fan anyway. I did not watch the Mortal Kombat movie. I think that was good. I don't know. I don't care about Mortal Kombat. I don't care about Street Fighter. I know that Roman and Cody are in that new Street Fighter movie. That should be fucking insane. Like, that just sounds ridiculous. And I think they start shooting soon. But yeah, I don't know. Anything live action of a video game is very hit or miss. I really do not think that movie will be good. Maybe it's so terrible I have no choice but to check it out. But if it's just bad in general, and it's not even like so bad it's endearing or entertaining, I'm not going to watch it. Pseudo says, I know I was reaching for that World Heavyweight Championship one there. I mean, I appreciate the effort nonetheless. I appreciate the thought that you put into it. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here. If we reach the end of the live chats, if you guys have any last-minute comments, let me know as we approach the 2-hour mark here on the 12-year anniversary episode of hashtag AskGSM. Anniversary for Alexis and I as well, but also the 12-year anniversary, not on the same day, obviously. The same day, but not the same year. I've been doing this show a lot longer than I've been with Alexis, but a cool coincidence nonetheless that it falls on the exact day of the very first episode that we did 12 years ago today. Insane. And like I said earlier, guys, appreciate all the support, not only today and last week and every week, really, but legitimately every week of the show, over 600 episodes, 606 to be exact, dating back 12 years, a lot of live shows, a lot of tape shows, even more tape shows, a lot of questions. I would love to know how many questions we've gotten sent in that I have like written down. I have the questions for every episode that I've ever filmed written down, not from the chats, which is a new thing. Like every question I've ever had sent in, I still have those saved. Honestly, you know what would be a good idea as opposed to reacting to me from the first video that I did 12 years ago, which by the way was only like 15 minutes. We're going on 2 hours today. Those first like 6 months of videos were only ever 15 minutes because I didn't like, you have to do something on YouTube, or at least we did. I don't know if this is a thing now, but there was a point where you would have to like confirm your channel or have a certain amount of subscribers or whatever the fuck to be able to do videos that were longer than 15 minutes. So for a long time, I could only do a certain period of time for the videos, and I would have to rush through the questions because I would have to make sure the video was short. That stopped in 2014 when I, moved past that and unlocked unlocked access to do longer videos. Another fun fact for you. But I think a good idea might be at some point to look back on the questions that were sent in from the very first episode and see how my answers would change. I mean, it might be about the product from 2013, but they could also be evergreen questions too. I feel like that would be entertaining. But like I said, whether you've been watching for 12 years, 1 year, 6 months, 1 month, 1 day, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You make the show possible and all the content that we do here on the channel possible. From this and WrestleRant Radio would not be possible without you fine folks. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Speaking of WrestleRant Radio, we will be live again this coming Thursday. Of course, hashtag AskGSM every single Tuesday here on the channel live. We'll be back with episode 607 next Tuesday here on the channel, right before I see Superman later that night. But we'll be live again here on WrestleRant Radio on Thursday this week. Myself and Mr. Marceau having another massive prediction panel breaking down and previewing NXT Great American Bash, Saturday night's main event, AEW All In, and WWE Evolution. A lot of stuff to get into. We'll get into all of it and any other news and notes coming up on Thursday on WrestleRant Radio. As far as this show is concerned, you can support the channel by becoming a WrestleRant All Access Pass channel member. $5 a month gets you top billing on hashtag AskGSM and WrestleRant Radio. Grunt is taking advantage of it. You can have your question answered first before anyone else's if you send it in ahead of time, or have your topic discussed first and give my quick thoughts on something on the show on WrestleRant Radio. So consider that. You also get badges and emojis in the live chats. You get early and ad-free access to certain videos and shout-outs at the beginning and end of every single stream that we do here on the channel. And that includes Alexis, Miss Maud Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1 at Swerve1 on IG, Daniel Malcolm, who is here today at I'm Quarter on X, Mr. Marceau at RJ_Marceau on Twitter, John Ritland, Real Honesty with John Ritland on YouTube, Richie himself, who is also here, Red Planet Wrestling here on YouTube, and Average Grunt, who is also here as well, I mentioned earlier, at The Average Grunt on X. And that's about it. If you guys want to, and more information on that, by the way, and becoming a WrestleRant All Access Pass channel member, supporting the channel and whatnot, down below in the description box. You can send in videos or send in questions. You can send in videos, I guess, too. But send in your questions to this show by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. And you can also send in questions on Facebook, facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Send in a question or send in a comment, put in a comment on the post I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, after this video is done processing and we're done being live, you can include a question in the comment section of this very video, and I'll include it in next week's edition. At the very least, though, if you want to just support the channel, not by becoming a member or by whatever, sending in a question, you can just do so by liking this video. It takes you no effort, not a cent, does not cost you a cent. Just give the video a thumbs up, like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm sure most of you have by now, I would hope. But subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and the bell button to be notified every single time we go live here on the channel and every single time we upload new content. Thank you again, guys, for joining us. We'll just run down the last couple chats here. Richie saying double anniversary fire. Indeed. I appreciate it, brother. Pseudo says, yo, 12 years is really great. By the way, keep going. Thank you, Pseudo. I appreciate that. Richie and Grunt with the Veer and Love Ziggler super chats. Badges and emojis in the chat. Thank you, boys. I appreciate that. Grunt said, might have something else to plug soon. Oh, okay. Very nice. Looking forward to seeing it, Grunt. Let me know when it goes live, whatever it might be, and I will include that here in the plugs as a channel member. Suno said, yeah, is that a Veer Mahan sticker? You're goddamn right that's a Veer Mahan sticker. Veer for life, baby. You'd have to check out the early live editions of Hashtag from a few months ago for that full Veer lore, by the way, here on hashtag AskGSM. Indeed it is. Going to consider being a member now for sure. Hey, listen, if Veer is the turning point for you, then fucking sign up to become a member. We are pro Veer here on WrestleRant. And if you're not, then you're not welcome here. But I appreciate that, Pseudo. Thank you so much. One last thing here before we ride off into the sunset. I promised Daniel I'd do it. The CM Punk Basic Thugonomics rap for your guys' viewing and listening pleasure. Basic Thugonomics. I need, like, what did he say? I need the transcript. I will do this real quickly before I forget. I don't want to save it for next week. Let's see. Can someone find me the full, like, rap to John Cena? Oh, okay. I found it. All right. I found it. I found the rap. Here is the CM Punk Basic Thugonomics rap that he gave to John Cena without music, because he didn't really have music when he did it either. So this was his version of Word Life. And this was recommended by Daniel Malcolm. I guess these are other things you can unlock access to by becoming a channel member, by asking me to do a John Cena CM Punk Word Life rap here on the channel. If you become a member, I'll, within reason, recite anything you want. Anyway, here's the Basic Thugonomics, Basic Punkonomics rap from the June 27th edition of SmackDown. He said to Cena the following: don't adjust your television set. Your eyes are working just right. This clown plagiarized my pipe bomb, so now I'm stealing Word Life. You had to rip me off to cut your best promo, to distract from the fact that we all see that you move in slow-mo. That's such a bad line. Remember when you used to rap? Yeah, you deserve all the criticism. You're like a Timu Macklemore, but with Macklemore-less rhythm. That is also just... I remember when he said this, but it's just so bad even reading it out loud. He said I'm a problem. He called me a player hater. Let's be honest, John Cena has buried more talent than The Undertaker. That's why he's the champ, and he went and lost all his respect. Hey, John, I get it. I'd retire too if this place rehired my ex. If you never said your prayers, ate your vitamins, or fixed your bald spot, you wouldn't be a pro wrestler, you'd be a Boston mall cop. He gets good movie roles, that much is a fact. But when we see Batista act, we realize John ain't that. Same shirt, same hat, your persona stays tragic. You're like a fish-belly white Hulk Hogan with some... But you're like a fish-belly white Hulk Hogan, but somehow more problematic. I completely butchered that. When it comes to best in the world, I'm your vessel. Millions chant my name, and at you, they chant, you can't wrestle. Get in while you can. Get it in while you can. In 6 months, you'll be gone, and I'll still be here having fun. He won't have time for you little people anymore. He'll be busy washing underwear for James Gunn. He's a superhero now. He works for DC. But no matter how hard you try, you'll still always be the Marine to me. That's straight to DVD. You better find a PS3. I now understand you can't see me. God, that is fucking terrible. That is really, really bad. I remember when he said all this, but that was just fucking atrocious. For like the nature of what the build was supposed to be, by the way. But anyway, that's not all. It's a hell of a catchphrase, John. But now all it's done, now it's all done because we all see you and we're looking at a washed up bum. 14 years ago today, I dropped the legendary pipe bomb, and you tried to make it all about you because that's what you do, John. You're a leech, you're a phony, you're a fraud, you're an ass kiss. 17-time world champion, but ain't never been in my class. Is that supposed to rhyme? Ass kiss in my class? That doesn't even rhyme. Before you go, John, there's one more wish to make. Tomorrow night, you're going to lose to Kendrick because, bitch, you're my Drake. That line also made no sense, but that was it. That was the basic Punkonomics rap from a week and a half ago on SmackDown, courtesy of Daniel Malcolm. Thank you to Fightful for the transcript, by the way. God, I forgot how fucking bad that was. Pseudo said, let me grab my popcorn. Richie said, you flubbed just like Punk did. Seems more authentic. Good point. Pseudo said, I heard Bobby Roode produced this segment. It looks like he wrote the lyrics as well. Honestly, it doesn't even matter who wrote it. I'm sure Punk wrote it. It doesn't even matter. It sucked. Missed opportunity to rhyme phony with jabroni. I know. He should have taken a page out of The Rock's book. Out of Dwayne's book. He just dropped the ball there. It was a missed opportunity. All right, anyway, folks, that was your post-credit scene. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, this was a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys tuning in, as always, for the show. Always so great chatting with you fine folks every single Tuesday and Thursday. We'll see you then for WrestleRant Radio coming up on Thursday. Until then, have an awesome Tuesday, folks. Go see a movie today at your local movie theater for $5 Tuesday. Until then, I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.